Hello everyone, like, subscribe and share fanfiction audiobook channel for next parts. Chapter 67. The whole discussion was about Shane, but no one paid attention to the four emperors. The focus was all on the Blackbeard Admiral. Blackbeard Admiral, is there something more important to deal with than here? The Marines in the square began to imagine because of this sentence. After all, this is just to deal with the Whitebeard pirates, and the pirates actually have other sea emperors. Admiral Shane, maybe he is going to suppress other sea emperors. That should be the case, otherwise he would definitely be recruited today. So that's how Marshal Sengoku arranged it. Yes, although Admiral Shane is not here, if the Whitebeard pirates dare to come, we can deal with it. That's right, Admiral Shane has to deal with more enemies, let us do it here. There is no need for too many reasons. These marine elites from all over the world, one by one, gave themselves enough reasons, which aroused the fighting spirit. Look at the live broadcast audience, it is the same, one by one, they made up reasons for Shane's absence. This is just to deal with the Whitebeard pirates, and Admiral Shane will fight all the New World pirates who come to invade. Finally, I've dealt with it. Seeing the change in morale below, Sengoku breathed a sigh of relief. He then began to introduce Ace's life experience and the significance of punishing him here. For this justice, he would not hesitate to fight the Whitebeard pirates, regardless of the cost. But the Marine executives were sensitive to the changes on the scene. Shane's prestige in the Marines seems to have surpassed yours, Kakuo. Grandma Crane folded her arms, her tone was flat, but her face was gloomy. This phenomenon is not a good thing. Neither for Shane nor for those in power. He deserves the treatment. I like the way that kid does things, but he is reckless. It's a pity that his prestige has become a bad thing now. Garp seemed to be enduring something, his face was not good to begin with, and after hearing Grandma Crane's words, he spoke without hesitation. And on the execution platform above. What a terrible appeal! Kizaru Borsellino said in surprise while sitting on a chair. Those elite Marines from all over the world, who had never even seen Shane, worshipped him. The strong are respected. Shane is really dazzling. Sakazuki, who rarely spoke, also said something out of the blue. This surprised Aokiji Kyuzan, and then sighed in his heart. Shane, why don't you do something else, but kill celestial dragons? He is admired by Marines all over the world, and his prestige is so great that there is no dispute about his future leadership of Marines. But killing celestial dragons is equivalent to rebellion. The three admirals were also very helpless. Seeing that the morale was affected just because Shane didn't show up, the five elders almost smashed the projection. He is getting more and more dangerous. His strength is unfathomable, and he still has such a great appeal now. It was our decision-making mistake at the beginning. We can't let his prestige grow. Wait until the execution is over. The five elders' eyes flashed with danger signals, and their fears became stronger. Marineford Square. Sengoku introduced the fact that Ace was Roger's biological son, which caused an uproar. The Marine soldiers with high morale also understood how important this public execution was. And the Whitebeard pirates are likely to appear. After all, the whole world knows that Whitebeard will not give up any of his companions on the ship. Sure enough, the Whitebeard pirates appeared. The large fleet broke through the gate of justice and kept approaching Marineford. These famous pirates in the New World were all indomitable and vowed to rescue Ace. The surface of the inner bay was bubbling. The Moby DK and two auxiliary ships followed the surface of the sea. Whitebeard pirates. Here we come. Admiral Shane is not here. This is a fierce battle, and it's about to begin. Will the world be destroyed? Why not let Admiral Swan participate? The audience watching the live broadcast suddenly became nervous. Whitebeard's name is too scary. Admiral Shane, the only one who can defeat him, did not participate in the battle. Especially seeing the fighting power coming from the pirates, I couldn't help but sweat for Marine. And what if the fight is too intense, and Whitebeard directly launches an offensive to destroy the world? At this moment, the people's worries became stronger. In the square, the atmosphere became more solemn. More than a dozen captains of the other side stood at the bow, looking at Ace on the execution platform. Whitebeard also stepped onto the deck step by step, and appeared in front of everyone. Gulalalala. Sengoku, long time no see, my son is here with you, is he okay? Whitebeard grinned, with an air of looking down on the world. Newgate. Sengoku gritted his teeth. If it weren't for Shane's incident, why would he be facing a formidable enemy now? But now that things have come to this, he has no choice but to fight the Whitebeard pirates to the end. And Whitebeard didn't intend to drag it out with Sengoku. He was also worried that the longer he dragged it out, the more changes would happen, such as the appearance of the mute Admiral. So Whitebeard simply took action. Crossing his hands, he shot left and right. With a powerful blow, Whitebeard made the atmosphere explode and the cracks spread. The visual effect was like a crack in space, which made the Marines very uneasy. Immediately, a strong earthquake erupted from the bottom of the sea. 2 huge tsunamis covered the sky and rushed towards Marineford. If this tsunami hits, Marineford will be finished. As expected of the strongest man. 4 Emperor's Whitebeard. Even such an opponent, the dumb Admiral also subdued him. Yes, if the dumb Admiral was here. The people watching were shocked by such power and such means. While discussing, they couldn't help but think of Shane's defeat of Whitebeard. If he was here, such a natural disaster would not be a threat. Even the Marine soldiers in the square felt the same way, especially in this situation. Tsunami, a tsunami is coming. If Admiral Shane was here, it would probably be easily solved. 100,000 Marine elites were also afraid of tsunamis. At the moment, their meager strength was even more helpless against Whitebeard's offensive. At this time, Kyuzen jumped up from the execution platform. Ice Age. The freezing power formed a breath of ice that quickly hit the tsunami and froze it quickly. It was Admiral Kyuzen who made the move. The liquid solidified into a solid, and the tsunami crisis was resolved, which made everyone feel relieved. After Kyuzen froze the tsunami, he shot 2 ice spears with his backhand and stabbed Whitebeard. Heh, kid. Whitebeard had no sense of solemnity towards the 3 admirals. Seeing the attack, he punched back with a shocking punch. The invisible vibration fist force broke the ice spear in the air and hit Kyuzen, breaking half of his fast elemental body and bending it inward. Admiral Kyuzen. The Marines were terrified. Whitebeard said ruthlessly, if it was Blackbeard, I might not be able to stop him. You? Not enough. Even though he was physically weak and old, Whitebeard had no problem pinning the 3 admirals to the ground and beating them. Unexpectedly, when Kyuzen fell into the water, he froze the entire inner bay, and even the sea surface outside. The sea surface is frozen. The pirates were a little surprised and didn't understand why Kyuzen did this. But the freezing of the bay undoubtedly created an excellent foothold. The pirates began to jump off the ship and headed towards the square. Watching the live broadcast, the audience around the world felt nervous. The battle has begun. The Whitebeard pirates have taken the initiative to attack. Marine has also come out to fight. The vice admirals have also appeared. Did Admiral Aokiji create the ice surface just to give the pirates a foothold? It is said that Admiral Blackbeard alone repelled the Whitebeard pirates and they dared not fight again. If he was here, it might not be so troublesome. Everyone watched the several exchanges and began to discuss. However, at this moment, the scene was unexpected again. One of the Shichibukai standing in front of the square moved. On the execution platform, Kizuru was slightly surprised. That self-willed Hawkeye actually chose to join the battle. This is really rare. They all lost to Shane. I thought he would not be interested. And below. Doflamingo looked at the Hawkeye my hawk in front of him with high fighting spirit and smiled, what? You want to take action? I'm just trying to see how big the gap is between me and Whitebeard. With a sound of sword, my hawk drew out the black knife from his back, his eyes sharp. Then he said, the difference between Shane and me is like the difference between stars and rice grains. Whitebeard was also defeated by him, so, what can I do? The voice fell. My hawk held the knife and chopped it down with force. The green sword light burst out. On the way forward, it dragged a deep dent on the ice. The world's best slash. Everyone was surprised by my hawk's attack. The Whitebeard pirates were also surprised, and everyone looked solemn. And Whitebeard himself seemed very calm, because at this time, one of his sons moved. The captain of the squad, Diamond Jaws, rushed forward, shouted to withstand the slash, and threw it into the sky with force. The sword light rotated, stirred the clouds in the sky, and then dissipated. The goal was not achieved, and my hawk did not react. It seems not so easy. If Blackbeard was here, those captains wouldn't have the strength to stand up to him. Doflamingo didn't care what Hawkeye would think. He blurted out this sentence with a hint of ridicule. My hawk ignored him and stared at the ice in the distance. He knew that it was not so easy to break through the Whitebeard pirates. At the Admiral of the execution platform, Kizaru suddenly turned into light and flew into the sky, ready to attack Guangpeng directly. Yashikani no Megatama. Countless light spots fell towards Whitebeard on the Moby DK. The light was dazzling. "Hey, it's dazzling," Whitebeard said calmly with narrowed eyes. The next moment Marco turned into a phoenix, blocked the light spots, and then Haki blessed and kicked Kizaru away. "Compared to Black Bat, there is almost no pressure facing you, Kizaru." Marco spread his wings in the air and said something as if he was talking to himself. His attack was still effective against Kizaru. Thinking of how he had almost no resistance in front of Shane before, he couldn't help but shook his head. The gold content of the strongest admiral in history is still rising. The fire below exploded, scaring the marine soldiers to sweat, and none of them dared to be careless. The audience saw Kizaru being stopped by the captain of the first team, and they couldn't help but worry. Kizaru Admiral was also stopped by the Phoenix Marco. The rare Phoenix. The Flash can't cause any damage. If Admiral Shane was here, it wouldn't be the same result, right? Of course, Black Bat Admiral defeated the 4 Emperors, and the captains of Whitebeard are definitely not his opponents. Shane's record was too strong before, and now seeing Kizaru being knocked down, the people of the world are also uncomfortable. In fact, this is also a difference caused by the huge gap in strength. As the captain of the Whitebeard pirates, how many of them are weak? Even if Kizaru is not careful, he will suffer. In the collapsed wall, the light penetrated the dust and reconstructed Kizaru's body. It seems that it's not so easy to behead him directly. Everyone be careful in the air, the opponent can fly. Kizaru was also a little helpless at this moment. Without Shane, it would be much more difficult to deal with the Whitebeard pirates. Shane was really an exaggeration. These captains were too strong, but he defeated them all by himself. He felt that he was far inferior to them. At this time, the Whitebeard pirates exerted their strength. Diamond Jaws used his strange strength to break the ice surface and actually threw the execution platform back. The huge ice block made the marines in the square change color. Too big. The battle gradually became white-hot. Akainu sat in his seat, and when he was covered by the shadow of the ice block, he said to himself impatiently, "Enough. It's obviously faster and more efficient to deal with these pirates." What he was dissatisfied with was the 5 elders' order not to summon Shane. If that kid was allowed to take action himself, why would he have to use all kinds of tactics and strategies? He could just push the 4 admirals horizontally and no one could escape. With this dissatisfaction, Akainu was covered in lava and stood up with his fists aimed at the falling ice block. Great eruption. An even bigger lava fist hit out, completely melting the ice. It immediately turned into stray bullets and hit the Whitebeard pirates on the ice. The power of these volcanic bombs was not a threat to Whitebeard, but it destroyed the entire formation and even the ship. On the ice, ordinary pirates suffered. The people around the world who watched the live broadcast finally saw the marine showing its power and breathed a sigh of relief. This is the power of Akainu Admiral, the fruit of the fruit. The Whitebeard pirates are finally embarrassed. The dumb admiral swept the 2 sea emperors at that time. What a shocking scene it would be. Yes, Whitebeard is obviously very strong. The dumb admiral still defeated them. Why not let the dumb admiral come? If the dumb admiral comes, he will crush them now. The battle was not one-sided. The Whitebeard pirates only destroyed a secondary ship, and the people talked about it. Although Sengoku said there was a more important mission, everyone reacted at this time and was very puzzled. If Shane joined the battle, it seemed that not much time would be wasted here, right? Why did Marine have to fight so hard? The reason is thought-provoking. The war is still going on. On the ice of the bay, the frontal conflict broke out completely. Tashigi, be careful. These guys are all masters of the new world. Smoker blocked the sword attacking Tashigi and reminded him. Yes, the opponent is very strong. If Admiral Shane is here, the Whitebeard pirates can't get close to the square. Tashigi panted, and his face was scared. He thought of the strongest Admiral 5 in Marine. Chapter 68. Shane. This name is indeed the biggest nightmare of the Whitebeard pirates. When Tashigi mentioned Admiral Shane, the people of the Whitebeard pirates around him shuddered. At that time, the group was almost wiped out, and Dad was no match for them. They didn't even have a chance to resist. If they didn't know that the dumb admiral was not recruited to fight, they would have no fighting spirit at all. This scene can be seen everywhere on the ice battlefield. The knocked-down Marines cursed and fought hard against the captains of the Whitebeard pirates. "You villains, just take advantage of Admiral Shane's absence. If he was here, you would have fallen long ago. Bastards!" One Marine fell, and another followed. The Whitebeard pirates are indeed more powerful individually, and the Marine casualties are higher. This also made the soldiers a little emotional. Why did the superiors let Admiral Shane not participate in the battle? What kind of mission is it that is less important than the naval headquarters? And the pirates trembled every time they heard Marine shout out Admiral Shane. Even the captains looked ugly and were scared from the bottom of their hearts. Fortunately, the monster did not participate in the battle this time, and their main purpose was to save people. During the battle. At the same time on the other side. Impel down. Thief, ha ha ha. With Van Oka, Lafitte, and others, Blackbeard opened his hands and laughed loudly as he stepped into the 6th floor. When Marineford started the battle, he used the warship to kill and to impel down, cleared the troublesome jailers along the way, defeated the Warden Magellan, and arrived at the 6th floor at the fastest speed. Many prisoners recognized that Blackbeard came with Shane and were very surprised. But what was even more surprising was that Blackbeard said he wanted to choose a partner and let everyone fight, but in the end, he actually asked Van Oka, Lafitte, and others to release all the prisoners. Instantly, the 6th floor was in chaos. Blackbeard. Rayleigh's eyes condensed, staring at Blackbeard who was busy recruiting companions. He knew this man from Whitebeard's ship. After Luffy was untied, he stared at Blackbeard and wanted to attack, but was blocked by the sand-cod croc wall. "Straw Hat Boy, it's not a wise choice for you to fight him now. Don't forget, the Fire Fist is being executed at the naval headquarters. Now that there is a conflict on the 6th floor, Luffy may not be able to beat Blackbeard." As expected, when Ace was mentioned, Luffy was extremely anxious and wanted to save him. At this time, Blackbeard had already released Bullet himself and offered an olive branch. "Ha ha ha Bullet, how about you join us?" Bullet tore open the loose handcuffs, glanced at Blackbeard, and walked over expressionlessly, with only one name in his mind, Blackbat. That young and powerful guy has become his target. "Rayleigh, let's go to naval headquarters together." At this time, the prisoners all knew that the Summit War had started. Bullet aimed at Shane and wanted to find him for another big fight, so he invited Rayleigh. "I want to beat that Blackbat away. Save Ace." Unexpectedly, Luffy was also very excited and had a fighting spirit on his face. However, when he heard that Bullet was going to cause trouble for Shane, Luffy wanted to get involved, so Rayleigh had no choice but to go. "How about it, we have to save some seedlings, right?" In fact, Rayleigh knew very well what kind of fruit Luffy was capable of. Having arrived at the final island, he also knew the prophecy that Shanks knew. Crocodile's eyes changed slightly, and it seemed that he also decided to go to Marineford with Bullet, Luffy and others. "I can't miss this kind of lively event." Burndy Waldo sneered and came over. Blackbeard had just asked San Juan Wolf to join, and when he saw Rayleigh, he actually beat up so many big prisoners at once, and threatened to go to Marineford to find the dumb Admiral. Suddenly, Blackbeard's eyes turned, and he said faintly, "If you want to cause trouble for Blackbat Shane, you have to be mentally prepared." He did not mention that the top leaders did not let Shane participate in the public execution. Obviously, Blackbeard also wanted their big prisoners to participate in the Marineford battle. "Humph, Blackbat is indeed strong, but we will join forces and fight outside, and we must get back some ground." Burndy Waldo had a cold face and refuted Blackbeard in a bad tone. "Get back at him. Rayleigh, the Blackbat that defeated you all and sent you to Impel Down that day was just one of his clones. Ha ha ha. If you want to cause trouble for him, you must be fully prepared." Blackbeard knew the inside story, and sneered at Burndy Waldo, and then told Rayleigh the truth about the Sabaody archipelago. Hearing this, Rayleigh, Luffy and the Supernovas were all stunned, and the other prisoners took a breath. "That is just Blackbat's clone. How is it possible? That. Hawkins, Bonnie, Kid, and others couldn't accept the fact that the terrifying and invincible figure was just a clone. Even Pluton Rayleigh was incredible. Clone. A clone can be so strong. Rayleigh frowned, and his heart was greatly shocked. He knew very well how strong Shane was at that time, enough to compete with the peak Whitebeard, Roger, and Rox. And the 2 punches made his blood boil and he couldn't stand up. But it turned out to be just a clone. Everyone present was extremely surprised. Many people had already been afraid of Shane and felt powerless. The whole audience fell silent for a while. The supernovas, Rayleigh, and others realized that Shane didn't use his full strength at all. A clone could beat them without any chance of fighting back. The prisoners, including Burndy, the Evil King, Depen, and others, also knew that Shane, who was an Impel Down, did not use his full power. He just used the illusionary dragon to suppress them. The strongest admiral in history, his strength is already heaven-defying. Bullet seemed to have reacted, and said arrogantly, "So what? He used the illusionary dragon to deal with us when he was here." At that time, he failed to condense the maximum combined giant, and Bullet was always unwilling. Even though he knew that Shane was ridiculously strong, he still wanted to fight. "Ha ha ha, then do you still want to go? Marineford is fighting Whitebeard now, and it seems to be a good choice to deal with Blackbeard Admiral." Blackbeard's laughter broke the silence again, with some temptation in his words. "Bullet has decided to go," and looked at him and snorted. I looked at Rayleigh immediately. "I want to save Ace." As a result, at this time, Luffy turned around and left. It seems that my old bones have to fight again. Rayleigh originally wanted to persuade Luffy, but could only follow helplessly. It was too dangerous to let the immature sun god go there and encounter Shane. Bullet said nothing and walked towards the exit. Crocodile, Burndy Waldo, and others hesitated for a few seconds, then quickly followed and left the 6th floor. Blackbeard looked at this group of people with a sinister look on his face. New World. Marine G4 Branch, Base Chief's Office. The big screen was broadcasting the Marineford battle in real time. Shane, the adjutant, and a group of rear admirals in the base were watching the live broadcast here. It's similar to what I remember. Many Marines are just slacking off. Shane was holding a cup leisurely, watching the summit war, thinking to himself. The Whitebeard pirates were absolutely weak, relying on Whitebeard alone. This was because Sengoku Garp didn't take action directly. Normally, it would be almost impossible to save people. This battle was not to publicly execute Ace, but to consume Whitebeard and destroy him. Shane watched Little Oz rush to the battlefield, the Shichibukai took action, and the steel barrier was activated. It was exciting to watch, but soon, new changes occurred on the battlefield. A warship suddenly flew out from the towering ice waves and fell from the sky. "Ace. I'm here." The first to bear the brunt was Straw Hat Luffy. And behind him, as he landed, his upright figures surprised the adjutants and rear admirals. Everyone on the battlefield was also extremely shocked. 0146011016 Fila 144350220. Pluton Rayleigh, Bullet, Crocodile, Burndy Waldo. There are even people outside the 6th floor. The Red Earl Redfield who escaped from the 6th floor a long time ago and the Sea Knight Jinbei. After escaping from prison, the Red Earl recovered and waited for an opportunity. He happened to meet Kaiping who wanted to rescue Ace's brother. Just then, Blackbeard released the prisoner. They met at the first level of the Impel Down sea surface, and then rushed to Marineford. Yes, it's the big prisoner on the 6th floor. Pluton Rayleigh. Bullet, the Devil's Heir. The 2 big guys on the Pirates King's ship have appeared. And the Red Earl, Burndy, are all strong men from the old times. For a moment, the Marines felt incredible and a little panicked. The people watching the live broadcast were even more shocked. No one expected that the big criminals imprisoned on the 6th floor would actually escape. Why are there so many pirates suddenly here? It seems that they are about to defeat the Whitebeard pirates step by step. It's going to be difficult for Marines now. Let Admiral Blackbeard come back. People from all over the country were sweating when they saw this luxurious lineup. Sengoku, who learned that Impel Down was in trouble, also looked extremely gloomy. How could Impel Down be lost? The Whitebeard pirates were not easy to deal with, and facing Newgate, Sengoku dared not be careless. As a result, Pluton Rayleigh, Bullet, and Red Earl also got involved. "Sengoku, I'm here to find Blackbeard." Rayleigh glanced at Luffy, and then said bluntly. "Let that guy come out. That fight is not over yet." As soon as Bullet entered the battlefield, he became violent and shouted at the Marines around him with disdain. And Red Earl looked at the whole scene with a gloomy look. Oh no, these guys all ran out. Kizaru, Aokiji, Akainu stood together, their eyes changed from the previous victory to extremely solemn. None of the people imprisoned by Impel Down are easy to deal with. Not to mention the Red Earl, even Pluton Rayleigh is enough to greatly increase the strength of the pirates. Rayleigh, Cadfield. Whitebeard was also a little surprised when he saw this combination. The battle situation seemed to have changed dramatically. Long time no see, Newgate. Rayleigh's eyes were a little complicated. Are you going to end it here? The Red Earl was even more outspoken. He could see Whitebeard's state. Lead the entire pirates group to rescue people? Whitebeard would not let his sons die. The only possibility is that he plans to stay. You want to take the opportunity to attack Blackbeard? Unfortunately, he is not here. Whitebeard nodded first, as a greeting, and then informed Rayleigh and others. As soon as this was said, Burndy, Bullet and others were unhappy. Blackbeard is not here. They escaped from Impel Down, and they wanted to keep in the best condition to fight. As a result, there was no Shane at Marineford. Everyone was inevitably disappointed, but soon, the anger in their hearts was directed at Marine. Since you are here, don't let the army have an easy time. Seeing the light of day again, Burndy was full of resentment and immediately aimed at Marine. Bullet was ready to fight, and his eyes fell on Kizaru, Garp, and Sengoku. Those who launched the Buster Call to capture him back then can vent their anger today. The battle in Marineford has never stopped. Although Vice Admiral and the captains were surprised, the fierce battle continued. Burndy Waldo joined the battlefield without saying a word, shouting, "Take naval headquarters smashed. I wonder if Black Bat can come out." As he said, Burndy, who had grabbed 2 pistols, began to activate his ability, enlarging the bullets like cannonballs, and killed the Marines in the square. Bullet rushed towards Sengoku. Garp laughed evilly and immediately attacked. The giant Vice Admiral was the first to be hit and was knocked unconscious by his punch. The powerful armed color made Garp's face change drastically. This is not a little bit stronger than before, and Bullet is now in the peak of his physical condition. Sand Crocodile CLO 2.2 Kedar. Jinbei, you are Shichibukai. The people who came down one by one started to take action, and the pressure on the Whitebeard pirates group was greatly reduced, and even the inner bay, the situation in the square changed, the key combat power was hit and delayed, and the Marines retreated step by step. Whitebeard's disadvantage has been reversed. Sengoku had a bad premonition in his heart, and his expression was solemn and dignified. 3 Admiral still has to fight with Marco, Vista, and other captains. Shichibukai is not working hard and can't be relied on at all. Few of the remaining combat forces can fight against Bullet and others. Even if Shu Zongjun and others rush forward, they can only withstand a few moves before they can't hold on. And people around the world who watched the live broadcast were completely shocked. Naval headquarters can't hold on any longer, the pirates are retreating. The encirclement wall has been broken, and Whitebeard is also going up. Oh my god, the situation that was supposed to be a victory has completely changed. Where is Admiral Shane? Why hasn't Marine called him back yet? Yes, if he doesn't come, Marineford will be completely conquered by the pirates. If the dumb Admiral is here, how can these pirates reveal their identities? The people are looking forward to it, and they are extremely nervous. Everyone can see that Marine is overwhelmed by the participation of the big criminals and big pirates. Even Shane, who is in the G4 branch, didn't expect such a change. War is really changing rapidly, and those who are Impel Down should be more beard. Shane looked at the screen, muttered to himself, and couldn't help but be a little curious. Sengoku, Garp personally took the field, and the result was uncertain. In this case, will the world government let himself go, or choose to use other war history? Chapter 69. Sengoku and Garp were indeed forced to go down in person. Bullet fired Kamui and beat the giant Vice Admiral back step by step. Aokiji came to the rescue and finally stopped him. Burndy Waldo kept attacking the warriors of naval headquarters, purely bullying the weak, and was stared at by the angry Huashaishin and others. Although Rayleigh had not yet made a move, he had been protecting Luffy. On the contrary, Red Earl and Whitebeard drove straight into the execution platform. Akainu alone could not stop them. Redfield. With a bang, Garp landed fiercely and punched Red Earl's place to explode. The ground cracked and dust flew everywhere, and Red Earl dodged easily with his strange body. Garp, you look as old as me. Red Earl had expected it, holding an umbrella sword, and his fighting spirit gradually rose. Shane let you go, just retire, and be honest. If you don't change, you should come and mess things up. Garp gritted his teeth, and a strong conqueror's burst out from his body. Shane. I still need to fight him, today I will collect some interest from you. The Red Earl did not dare to be careless in front of Garp, and rushed over with an umbrella sword. Garp fought with a pair of iron fists, and the two sides fought in an instant. Whitebeard stared at the execution platform, trying to save Ace. Suddenly, golden light filled the air. A big Buddha blocked the way, solemn and mighty. There is no need to say more between Sengoku and Whitebeard, two old rivals. In the Buddha form, Sengoku raised his palm and blasted, the air exploded, forming a fierce shock wave. Whitebeard grinned and punched back. The ground under his feet cracked, and the space seemed to be broken. The whole Marineford couldn't help but tremble. Legends against legends, the intensity of the battle has been upgraded again. After all, the lineup on the pirates' side is more powerful. Bullet, Burndy, and others were like wolves among sheep, and Aokiji couldn't stop him completely. Fortunately, Hawkeye my hawk did not stop after joining the battle, which relieved a lot of pressure. But don't forget that Crocodile, Jinbei, and Rayleigh are still there. The situation on the battlefield almost began to be one-sided. Without the support of high-end combat power, the White 16 Bayards and more than 10 squadrons, as well as the members of the large fleet, had only one goal. That was to rush into the square. Save Ace. The audience watching the live broadcast was completely panicked. Seeing that Marine was obviously defeated, they couldn't help but feel angry and anxious. It's already like this. Why don't you let Blackbeard Admiral go? Yes. It won't be long before the Whitebeard pirates will be on the execution platform. The execution time is far from here, and they don't want to execute directly. Let the dumb Admiral come out. The strongest Admiral, the real highest combat power, will definitely be able to turn the situation around. Many people around the world clenched their fists and were annoyed. In the field, both Whitebeard and Rayleigh were defeated by Shane. He drove away 2 Sea Emperors and defeated Kaido. The people always believed that he could solve the problem as long as he showed up. He also increasingly did not understand the arrangement of the world government and felt it was unreasonable. At the same time, Marie-Joyce, in the power, the 5 elders also began to get restless. Each of them looked gloomy and stared at the live screen angrily. A whole. How can Crocodile, Jinbei, and Rayleigh come out and participate in the war? The current combat power of Marine is far from enough to deal with so many top combat forces. Pluton, Bullet, Red Earl, plus the Whitebeard pirates. When Garp and Sengoku can't stand it, the execution will fail. This execution must not be lost. Do you want to let the Knights of God go? Or, we will go out in person. But this is a live broadcast to the whole world, we can't show up. Caught between the left and right, the problem facing the 5 elders has no good solution at all. They could not show up, and the Knights of God were a major secret that could not be easily revealed to the world. As a result, there was no extra combat power to reverse the situation for a while. Even Kong could not do it. Now he is the only one who can stop the defeat. At this time, Saint Wally Chu slowly spoke. Blackbeard. Others obviously thought of Shane, but the 5 elders were not looking good, and they were even more hesitant when Shane was mentioned. As a marine, he killed celestial dragons and stepped on the majesty of celestial dragons. Now he has to be used, which makes the 5 elders feel uncomfortable. Letting Shane take action is undoubtedly to make us bow our heads. Saint Peter frowned and resisted subconsciously. If they bowed their heads, it was equivalent to the entire Marie-Joyce, the entire celestial dragons clan bowing their heads. How would the proud descendants of God deal with themselves? If Shane takes action, everything can indeed be solved quickly. Whitebeard and the Red Earl are not a problem. Satan and others naturally understood that the Black Bat represented how to pervert the fighting power. They, and even the Knights of God, could not show up, and only Jinan could solve the war 100%, and the war could not be lost. After weighing the pros and cons, Saints Wolikyu, Peter, and Mez still felt that it was safe to summon Shane. Satan was about to pick up the Den Mushi to give Shane the opportunity to atone for his sins. But Saint Nasujiro raised his hand to stop him and said, "No, there are people to do these things for us." They didn't show up, but they kept some face. As expected. When the 5 elders thought of it, Sengoku on the Marineford battlefield was even more anxious. The Marines' artillery facilities had completely become Burndy's artillery positions, and the Marine soldiers were bombed into a mess. High-end combat power 3 Admiral, Garp, and others were completely held back by Rayleigh, Bullet, Red Earl, and Whitebeard. The decline has already taken shape. Sengoku had thought of Shane a long time ago, and took the opportunity to retreat and quickly used the phone to contact the G4 branch. This scene was also seen in the live broadcast, and this is why Nasu Xiaolangsheng was not in a hurry. At such a fierce battle, Sengoku had no choice but to contact Shane. While watching the live broadcast, Shane, who was leisurely, also received an urgent call from Sengoku. As soon as it was connected, the roar of artillery and power in the battle on the opposite side, Haki's movement was very loud. Sengoku's anxious voice came, "Shane. It's urgent, please support immediately." The war was urgent, there was no nonsense, and Sengoku felt a little weak in his heart. But he always felt that Shane would come. However, Shane hesitated about Sengoku's request for help. This kind of thankless task actually didn't want to do it. Especially as a time traveler, Shane understood that the 5 elders were forbearing now and were ready to settle the score later. Seeing that Shane did not respond for a few seconds, Sengoku became more anxious and said repeatedly, "The Celestial Dragon's incident was indeed too big, but now is a good opportunity to atone for your sins, Shane. If I can solve this crisis, I will resign and pave the way for you." Sengoku seemed to have made up his mind and didn't want to miss out on a talent like Shane, so he made a promise. Even so, Sengoku still had great expectations for Shane. Supporting Marineford was the best opportunity for Shane to return to the peak of power in the Marine. It was also enough to save his position with the 5 elders. Shane hesitated, partly because the system did not give any prompts. Without attribute points, this trip was meaningless. What did the 5 elders think? Commanding the Marine? Shane had no interest at all. But just after Sengoku made the promise, the system suddenly popped up a prompt. And this time the prompt was different from the past. Ding, an unexpected event was triggered, and the host could make the following choices to get a different reward route. 1. Choose to be stable and tolerant, and continue to rely on the world government to maintain the current daily income. 2. Choose to rise up, publicly declare the independence of the G4 branch, and create a personal force to get double the daily attribute point bonus. After choosing, you cannot regret it. This is completely asking Xiaoyan to choose his future path. The system does not want Xiaoyan to lie flat. Seeing this prompt, Xiaoyan was also a little surprised, but after thinking about it, he had a tendency in his heart. Those celestial dragons are a bit dark, and it may not be comfortable to stay here. It would be more comfortable to have my own power. Shane thought of the Zephyr case and decisively chose the second one. It just so happened that Marineford was now a good opportunity to publicize it publicly, and it was also the last time to help Sengoku, the mentor, solve the problem. So Shane tapped his fingers twice on the microphone as a response. Hearing the tapping sound, Sengoku finally breathed a sigh of relief. Before he could speak, Shane heard a roar from the other side, and then the Den Mushi was disconnected. It seems that someone is fighting with Sengoku again. Since he decided to go to Marineford, Shane did not hesitate and walked out of the base in the excited expressions of the adjutants. On the other side, the Den Mushi in Sengoku's hand was blown away by the shock force, and he staggered back several steps. Not far away, Whitebeard held Kasugawa Kiri and rushed towards the execution platform with the Inchi meteor. Sengoku's face was solemn, and he turned into a golden Buddha again, pushing his palms horizontally, sending out a strong shock wave to stop Whitebeard. The violent shock wave blasted the broken ground apart, rubble flew, and dust rose. Whitebeard punched out, the atmosphere cracked, and the shock wave of Sengoku hit him from a distance. Newgate. Don't even think about saving people. Shane will be here soon, and none of you will be able to escape. Sengoku was full of confidence at this moment, his eyes were sharp, and although he warned, his voice was loud and spread throughout the square. What? Admiral Shane will be here soon. Great. With Admiral Shane here, these pirates will no longer be able to be arrogant. None of them will be able to escape. Kill. Leave all these pirates here. The Marines, who were originally depressed and in a bad mood, suddenly had their eyes brightened, and their morale soared as they shouted excitedly. The cheers of the Marines were deafening. Also watching the live broadcast, people all over the world also heard that Admiral Shane was about to arrive, and their faces became excited. Finally, the dumb Admiral will join the battle. With the strongest, with Admiral here, the pirates will lose. That's right. The dumb Admiral is invincible. Look, the pirates are terrified. The people of the world cheered, and we're all happy for the next Marine Blackbeard. This war will eventually win, so they don't have to worry. Because from the beginning to the end, everyone believed that as long as Admiral Blackbeard took action, the four emperors and the legendary pirates would not be afraid. And on the battlefield, the pirates did start to panic when they learned that Shane was coming. Marco, Vista, and others who were at the forefront were shocked. Is Blackbeard really coming? They knew very well how strong Shane was, and they were anxious. Once he really showed up, the situation on the battlefield would probably be reversed by Blackbeard in an instant. That amazing fighting power was incredible. Especially the large fleet and the squad members, all of them broke out in cold sweat. They almost didn't even have a chance to attack Shane. Whitebeard's face was even gloomy, and he bit his back teeth tightly. 307. Sengoku, it seems that you would rather trample the dignity of celestial dragons under your feet. Knowing the killing of celestial dragons, Whitebeard understood the significance of letting Shane join the battle, and sneered. You don't have to worry about this, Newgate. Sengoku responded strongly and slammed out another palm. Whitebeard blocked with his naginata, turned his head and shouted to his subordinates, speed up. We can't wait for Shane to come. We must save Ace as soon as possible while there are so many fighters. Otherwise, even he won't be sure that his sons can escape unscathed. On the contrary, Bullet, Divaldo and others who threatened to find Shane were somewhat hesitant. Blackbeard, is he really coming? For some reason, Bullet had a bad feeling and his heart trembled slightly. Is there really a chance to fight Shane with all his strength now? Looking at the substances around him that can be transformed into inorganic substances in large quantities, Bullet finally had some confidence. But Burn Divaldo, Sand Crocodile and the others were a little scared. In this battlefield now, the appearance of Blackbeard is definitely not a good thing. Crocodile said to himself, his expression solemn. That guy's record and the strength he witnessed were extremely exaggerated. After a battle, Fuchu's confidence in confronting Shane head-on. It still depends on the many pirates present. Rayleigh was the same. He swept his eyes across the battlefield and calculated the chances of Shane's victory after joining the battle. Shane was so strong and terrifying that the information he was about to receive made everyone's heart waver. Little did they know that the pirates present were thinking about borrowing from each other. Shichibukai, Empress Hancock, Tyrant Chiu, Gecko Moria, and others couldn't help but look forward to it. With the arrival of Blackbeard, this farce should be almost over. Hancock thought to himself, recalling the unparalleled combat power he had seen in G4, and sighed a little. This is the effect that absolute power can bring. You are finally coming. A hint of fighting spirit flashed in my hawk's eyes. It seems that he still wants to fight with Shane, so as to continue to become stronger. Doflamingo laughed loudly, he Blackbeard is coming, Whitebeard pirates, and these pirates who are famous in the sea will also suffer. * 5 Elders. It seems that you have figured it out. Even in this way, the majesty of God, I will let you do it. The first sentence was said without scruples, but the second sentence, Doflamingo lowered his voice and looked playful. This is also a good opportunity to communicate with Shane. But at this moment, suddenly, a figure was about higher than the heads of many pirates, and the enclave was encircled. Because the marine side was fighting on all fronts, even the nearest Sengoku was restrained and could not be stopped. Ascending the execution platform, Luffy's excited voice rang out, Ace. I'm coming. Chapter 70. No one expected that a pirate's rookie would actually enter the square from the inner bay and cross the marine defense line to the execution platform. This surprised everyone. Luffy was very excited standing on the stage. He took out the key given by Jinbei and opened Ace's handcuffs. Ace didn't expect it either. He reacted in his decadence and didn't have time to be moved. He quickly grabbed Luffy. Let's go. I don't know when the Marine Blackbeard will arrive. Ace turned into a flame and flew down the execution platform with Luffy without looking back. Although there was no direct confrontation, Ace, who was able to defeat his father and witnessed Shane suppressing the 6th floor, knew very well how terrible the Blackbeard Shane was. So he had to quickly evacuate Luffy and the Whitebeard pirates. Seeing Ace escape, the Whitebeard pirates were also very excited. Straw Hat Boy. Good job. Ace is rescued. The pirates cheered, and their voices resounded through the sky. Stop them! Sengoku was furious, yelling as he attacked. But the next second, the naginata with Conqueror's haki wrapped around it fell, stopping Sengoku's hand from attacking Ace and Luffy. Gulala, don't get in the way, Sengoku. Whitebeard also seemed very happy at this moment. Finally, Ace was rescued, and the next step was to evacuate everyone. After stopping Sengoku, he looked up and saw that all the high-level Marines were unable to attack Ace and the other two, so they shouted, "The goal has been achieved. Everyone, retreat." The Whitebeard pirates did not say a word and followed the captain's order to evacuate. Rayleigh, Bullet, Crocodile, Divaldo, and others were no longer interested in fighting. After all, Sengoku said that Shane would arrive soon, but they didn't want to confront him head-on now. People around the world who watched the live broadcast were also very angry when they saw the pirates evacuate calmly. Fire Fist Ace has been rescued. Admiral Shane is coming soon. Yeah. If they hold on a little longer, the pirates will be finished. That's good. Admiral Shane should have joined the battle. The people were very angry. They thought that the Marine was incompetent and the world government had problems with its decision. Once the pirates leave, the people's trust in the Marine and the world government will plummet. Back to the battlefield. The pirates on the periphery began to quickly evacuate to the ship. In the square, Marco, Jaws, and Vista were entangled with the three admirals, and Rayleigh, Burndy, Waldo, and the Red Earl were assisting, holding back the top forces such as Marine Garp. Fighting and retreating. The goal was achieved. The pirates were leaving. Garp, Akainu, Aokiji, Kizaru, and others were also very helpless. If they can't win, what can they do to keep these guys? But no matter what, Marine can't let the pirates evacuate calmly, and some people must be left behind. Of all the people present, only Whitebeard stayed in place and began to use his ability frantically to stop the pursuers. With a powerful burst of power, Whitebeard squeezed the air with his hands and shook his arms, causing Marineford to fall into a violent vibration. The atmosphere cracked. The ground and buildings were also torn apart by the shock and impact, and it was a mess. This kind of relentless and desperate fighting style made Sengoku, Garp, and even the old generation of strong men such as the Red Earl and Rayleigh change their faces drastically. They could see that Whitebeard didn't want to leave at all. Rayleigh raised his sword, and the Red Earl's eyes changed slightly. After hesitation, he chose to follow. The two strong men of the old era shared some of the pressure for Whitebeard, and also questioned, "The goal has been achieved, Newgate, what else do you want to do? Evacuate together, there is no need to sacrifice yourself." The Red Earl glanced at Whitebeard and spoke coldly. In the current situation, Marine couldn't keep the Whitebeard pirates even if he wanted to. Whitebeard smiled uniquely when he heard this, and said, "I'll stop the incoming Black Bat." He was worried that Black Bat would chase him after he arrived, so he took the initiative to stay. Rayleigh shook his head and said bluntly, "Even if you stay, you can't stop Shane from sharing in your current state." On the side, the Red Earl also agreed, "With that guy's strength, he doesn't even need to take action himself." In the Battle of Impel Down, although the Red Earl was not in the best state, he also tried his best. If he hadn't defeated the dragon in the extreme state by chance, he would probably have been inseparable from Impel Down. So this sentence that Shane doesn't need to take action is not nonsense. Whitebeard is stubborn, but now Rayleigh and the Red Earl both said that staying would be futile, and they couldn't help but waver. "Newgate, let's go, I still have a lot to say to you about Ace and Luffy," Rayleigh said with a serious face. But at this moment, suddenly, a red light shone, accompanied by the sound of lava rolling. Rayleigh, Whitebeard, and the Red Count saw that it was Akainu who was desperate and punched Luffy who was fleeing. "Don't try to run. Damn demon blood." Akainu was murderous and rushed straight to Luffy. Rayleigh was immediately anxious, haki was rampant, and his body rushed over. Luffy. Ace, who was closest, didn't expect that Akainu, who was entangled with the Red Count, would kill him so quickly. And Luffy was still immersed in joy, running without knowing the danger behind him. Subconsciously, Ace was going to help Luffy block Akainu's fatal blow. At the critical moment, a figure flashed with unparalleled speed. The red and black sword energy cut Akainu's magma fist smoothly. Bang! The lava exploded. Luffy was pushed out by the air wave, exhausted, he fell in front of Ace, and fainted completely. Akainu behind him had a drastic change of expression in his eyes, and he squeezed out two words from his teeth, "red hair." The rescuer was Shanks, who rushed over. Enough. Akainu. Shanks had blocked his way. Akainu could not continue to chase for a while. Sengoku, Garp, Kizaru, Aokiji, and others looked very gloomy, and the vice admirals were sweating coldly on their foreheads, gritting their teeth and saying nothing. The situation was getting more and more serious, but Shane hadn't arrived yet. Red Taro. Rayleigh was relieved to see Shanks rescue Luffy. "Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Rayleigh." Shanks greeted respectfully. The two people greeted each other, but the protection of Luffy became a riddle that others could not understand. Afterwards, seeing the pirates begin to evacuate and the Marines chasing them, Shanks shouted majestically, "The war should end." Most of the 100,000 elite Marines have begun to panic. There are too many big pirates on the scene. Marine is definitely not a match before Shane arrives. But the vice admirals still gritted their teeth and retorted, "Why do you do that? Red hair. Once Admiral Shane arrives, none of you can escape." Blackbeard Admiral is the biggest confidence of Marine. Because another Sea Emperor came, the Marines on the scene panicked, but when they heard the vice admirals scolding Red Hair and Shane's name, they immediately began to restore their morale. Morale is always just morale. The current situation is completely dominated by the pirates. The top ones are Whitebeard, Rayleigh, Red Earl, Bullet, and Red Hair Shanks. Behind them are Burndy Waldo, Jinbei, Crocodile, and captains such as Marco, Vista, and Jaws, and even Red Hair pirates have not all arrived yet. Plus a large number of first-class pirates. On the Marine side, apart from Sengoku, Garp, and the three admirals, almost no one else is qualified to fight the other captain. Shichibukai is just a bystander, and now it is even less likely to fight for Marine. The strength is completely unequal. We can't win. We can't win at all. The pessimistic Marine has begun to despair. Let alone leaving the pirates, if we really fight, I'm afraid we can't even save Marineford. Hold on. Admiral Shank is here. Even if Red Hair comes, it's useless. Many Marine soldiers still encouraged the soldiers to prevent morale from being too low. But all over the world, seeing the appearance of Red Hair Shanks, and even the Red Hair pirates landing on Marineford one after another, the people were completely panicked. Marine, who stood on the side of justice, lost completely. The target of execution ran away. Oh my god, it's the Red Hair pirates. Is the naval headquarters going to be occupied by the pirates too? There's no way they can win. Why not let the dumb admiral participate in the public execution from the beginning? Yes, Marine is completely finished now. If the dumb admiral was there, this wouldn't happen. Once the naval headquarters is lost, the pirates all over the world will celebrate. The rest of the suffering will be these millions of civilians. Everyone couldn't help but clench their fists, either in grief, or in despair, or hoping that Shane would come soon. However, just when everyone was thinking about it, Whitebeard hesitated, and Red Hair advised Marine to end the battle. Suddenly, a scream came from the towering wall of the bay. The miserable sound immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the square. Burndy Waldo was stabbed in the heart, and someone attacked him from behind. As Burndy Waldo fell helplessly, the Sword of Time also appeared. Chief Warden, Shiryu of Rain, Sengoku, the three admirals, and the vice admirals immediately recognized the person who killed Burndy Waldo and were greatly surprised. But soon, the Marines looked even uglier. Behind Shiryu, Blackbeard, Van Oka, Lafitte, Poison Q Badgers, and several people in prison uniforms appeared. Depen. Evil Wolf. Evil King. Sengoku's pupils were shaking and he gritted his teeth. It was obvious that Blackbeard had rebelled from the Shichibukai identity. Ha 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 ha. Dad. I'm here. Today, I'll put on a big show for you and everyone else. Blackbeard laughed arrogantly and was extremely arrogant. At his feet, Burndy Waldo was struggling to survive with blood oozing out of his mouth. As soon as Blackbeard finished speaking, he punched down and completely ended the sexual zone of this world destroyer. Teach. Whitebeard's eyes condensed and his face was solemn. Ace, Marco, and others stared at Blackbeard with disgust and anger. Rayleigh, Red Earl, and others realized that something was wrong and paid attention to the surroundings, while also staring at Blackbeard. However, Blackbeard had no scruples and covered himself and Burndy Waldo with black cloth. After a few seconds, it was suddenly opened. Everyone seemed to think that Blackbeard had not changed at all, and they were a little confused. What is this guy trying to do? Blackbeard laughed even louder, and shouted excitedly, "Success!" The men behind him smiled. Then, Blackbeard swept across the battlefield, laughed, and pressed one hand on the ground. "See the power of darkness! Ha ha ha!" Amidst the laughter, dark fruit started. A lot of black mist came out of Blackbeard's palm, and it continued to spread along the ground and down the wall. Black seemed harmless. But it made everyone feel weird. Everyone, this is the strongest Logia fruit ability. Next is Momo fruit, 100-fold amplification. Blackbeard was very excited, as if he was standing in the center of the stage, under the spotlight, performing for everyone. With a 100-fold amplification, the black season seemed to be deeper and richer. Instantly, it covered the square. There was a layer of black fog under everyone's feet. Momo fruit? Isn't that Berndy Waldo's ability? Why, he actually used it. This black season is really enhanced. The pirates were shocked, this was simply beyond common sense. Blackbeard killed Berndy Waldo and passed his ability to himself. Teach's body is different from that of ordinary people. It's not impossible for him. Marco had some understanding of Teach's body structure and spoke solemnly. An ace carried Luffy on his back and shouted, "Avoid these black fogs." Teach's ability is absorption. When someone heard something strange, they jumped away quickly to avoid the black fog spreading under their feet. Good, good. Whitebeard, Rayleigh, the Red Earl and others all frowned and jumped to the protrusion. Red-haired Shanks, Beckman, Lakila, and others who came over stopped in their tracks and stared at Blackbeard gloomily. The same was true for Marine, and everyone looked unhappy. As a result, at this moment, Blackbeard smiled coldly, "Dark acupoints." In an instant, the black fog that spread to almost half of Marineford rioted. The entire island was trembling, and the black fog began to suck in and swallow the people or buildings it touched. It was visible to the naked eye that everything seemed to be sinking. Did you see it? This is the power of darkness. Blackbeard used such a large range and such a strong swallowing power of the dark acupoints for the first time, and he couldn't help laughing arrogantly. Swallowing, cold island material. It must be said that with the blessing of the Momo fruit, the power of the dark acupoints is a bit too strong. Even the people on both sides of the pirates and Marine would be absorbed and sink continuously when they came into contact with the black fog. For a while, there were screams everywhere in the square and the inner bay, and even the town buildings next to the base were sinking. A hole. Whitebeard's face was angry, and his heart was filled with rage. The so-called dark fruit was actually the ability that Teach had killed Thatch to steal. The red-haired Shank's eyes flashed with fear and murderous intent. Sengoku, Garp, Kyuzen and other Marines gnashed their teeth, looking at the miserable state of Marineford, very annoyed. Today, we must destroy Marineford. Let the naval headquarters sink into the sea. Ha ha ha. How about it? Marshal Sengoku. How about it, Dad? Yeah. Blackbeard shouted. Everyone, including the audience from all over the world, was shocked by Blackbeard's ability, this strange layer of destruction. Suddenly, Blackbeard's shouting just stopped. The faint voice spread throughout the audience. Really? ZZZZ, accompanied by a terrifying deterrent force. Chapter 71. The first move is as soon as he opens his mouth. The sound waves are enchanted with Conqueror's haki with the sound, covering the whole place. The Whitebeard pirates, Red Hair pirates, and the weaker crew members were directly shocked by Conqueror's haki and fell down. Black lightning filled the sky. The dark fog that Blackbeard spread and swallowed Marineford stopped directly and dissipated on the spot as if it encountered something terrifying. The dark acupoints are gone. Under the heavy threat of Conquerors, Whitebeard, Rayleigh, Red Hair Shanks, Red Earl, Bullet, etc., everyone, including Sengoku and Garp, everyone looked up at the sky. At this moment, Blackbeard's head was covered with cold sweat, and he could no longer shout. He only said with a trembling voice, "You. Black Bat." In the sky, the one coming was Shane. The whole audience focused on the sky, with different expressions, but everyone was shocked. The giant Minos Grande Phantom Blue Dragon was circling, and Shane stood on the dragon head, looking down at the whole place with a relaxed look. Shane, Sengoku, Garp, and even the three admirals and the vice-admirals were all ecstatic. The Marine soldiers reacted and shouted, "Shane Admiral! They are saved. The Marines' defeat today is over." The Marines were very excited, and many of them were cheering with enthusiasm. People from all over the world were even more ecstatic when they saw Shane appear and suppress Blackbeard immediately. Here he comes. He finally comes. As soon as the dumb Admiral appeared, the black garden that covered the naval headquarters disappeared. Invincible. Whether it's the four emperors or those legends. They are all finished. The people cheered and regained hope. The pirates at the scene all looked pale, and their figures trembled slightly, as if they were facing a great enemy. Blackbat Shank. This is the oppressive force of the strongest admiral. What a terrifying momentum. The red hair pirates and Whitebeard pirates were shocked by Shank's invincible fighting power. Now seeing his figure again, everyone was panicked from the bottom of their hearts. Even the Red Earl, Bullet, and others couldn't help but clench their fists, hold their weapons tightly, and grit their teeth to be cautious. Whitebeard, red-haired Shanks, had a flash of worry in his eyes. They didn't want to continue fighting in their hearts, but Shank's majestic appearance and his amazing momentum made them worry whether they could still go smoothly. The most shocked person at the scene was Blackbeard. The dark power black mist with 100 times amplification, during the swallowing process, 203 was actually suppressed by Shank's Conqueror's Haki and disappeared. In the top circle, it is known that Conqueror's Haki can suppress abilities and make them invalid. Red Hair and Whitebeard can also do this. Just according to the strength and range of Blackbeard's ability, he can still suppress it and make the dark ability after amplification ineffective, which shows how strong Shane Conqueror's is. Beads of cold sweat flowed from Blackbeard's forehead and cheeks, and Fan Oka, Lafitte, San Juan Wolf, King of Evil and others behind him were all panicking. Being stared at by Shane, they were under great psychological pressure. Heh. That's right. Blackbat, what if you come? One hand of Momo fruit and the other hand of darkness gave Blackbeard great confidence. After struggling, he still roared bravely. The pirates present couldn't help but say to Blackbeard that he was really fierce. Didn't you see that the big pirates have all become obedient? And Shane looked at Blackbeard teach with a playful look. This made him feel ashamed and angry, and he immediately began to mobilize his strength. Black fog surged from Blackbeard's body, and the sky spun upwards. Dark fruit brought an inexplicable pressure to everyone, even Whitebeard. Everyone's eyes changed, and they looked at Blackbeard and yelled, "Amplify 100 times." Immediately, his whole body turned into a black hole covered by black fog. The next second, all the black fog gathered above his head as Teach raised his palm, and continued to condense and become larger. Under the amplification, it continued to rise, and its energy was even more enormous. 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters. The darkness formed a giant ball, and the volume continued to expand, accompanied by frequency compression. Marco, Baista, and Lakila, Yasop and others from the Red Hair Pirates swallowed their throats and nodded. The dark giant ball was condensing and expanding, and its pressure also shocked the audience. Tsitsizizizi. The dark ball rolled, and there was a faint Haki lightning passing by. This. Is this Blackbeard? As the sense of oppression continued to rise, many people in the Whitebeard Pirates group couldn't believe it. Red-haired Shanks gnashed his teeth. This is Teach's hidden strength, Whitebeard. Whitebeard remained silent, his eyes full of gloom, just as red-haired Shanks said. Teach has been hiding his strength. Now with 100-fold increase, the dark giant ball, BGBF, spanned 100 meters and occupied everyone's head. In front of the live screen, the audience from all over the world looked at it, completely dumbfounded, and nervous. Under the ultimate pressure, everyone, including Marine, was sweating and their pupils were shaking. If Blackbeard smashed it down, the square would be blown up. No, it's impossible. Don't be afraid. Blackbeard is just bluffing. Don't forget, Admiral Shane is here. The Marine soldiers withstood this ultimate pressure, even if their bodies trembled with physical reactions, they were still determined. Blackbeard completely gathered his ultimate move, and his face showed arrogance. Ha ha ha. How about it? Blackbat. And Marines. Taste the power of darkness. Dark Emperor. Holding the dark giant ball, Blackbeard aimed directly at Shane, trying to smash it down. Be careful. Sengoku couldn't help but warn. Garp, Akainu, Kizaru, Aokiji, and others were also ready to help Shane resist at any time. Everyone was nervous at this moment, because Blackbeard's Dark Emperor, which was amplified 100 times, was really terrifying. But Shane didn't show any emotional changes, and even wanted to yawn. Glancing at the arrogantly laughing Blackbeard teach, he slowly said, "Break." Pure pseudosonic explosion. The energy is far more ferocious and violent than the fruit ability, and is several levels higher. Under Shane's will, it is like an invisible giant hand slapping over. Instantly, the whole space seemed to tremble suddenly. Everyone looked up, and the naked eye could see a wave passing through the space. It seems invisible, but it does exist. Immediately, Shenren's scene appeared. The dark giant ball that was condensed into shape seemed to be crushed, and there was not even any energy conflict. In Blackbeard's trembling eyes, in everyone's incredible eyes. The ultimate oppressive force, as if the Dark Emperor ball with infinite destructive power, was completely crushed into an irregular shape by the invisible great force. Then, it cracked and turned into wisps of black smoke and dissipated, as if it had never appeared. Especially Blackbeard, who felt that he was a convenient energy and directly lost contact, and the whole person was stunned in place. No. Impossible. Below Marineford, Sengoku, Garp, the three admirals, and the marines looked at the sky and almost popped their eyes out. This is Shane's invincible fighting power. No matter how powerful the destructive move is, it is like a toy in front of Shane. One word, it is broken. Unimaginably strong. Whitebeard, Red-Haired Shanks, Red Earl, Bullet, and others, including their pirates, as well as Beckman, Usopp, L'Aquila, Marco, Ace, and others. All looked at the sky, unable to speak for a long time, with shocked expressions, like a dream that is incomprehensible. Blackbeard's unimaginable big move was easily torn apart by Shane dissipate. This is Blackbeard. The strongest in the world. Mihawk spoke slowly after a long time. He and everyone else once again saw the gap between themselves and UNN. The pirates did not think that Shane would come and fight with them. So many legendary fighting forces, overwhelming naval headquarters, it is not impossible to fight with Shane. But now, this has completely made everyone lose confidence. Too strong, sleeping makes people lose the will to fight. How is this possible? Why would the dark fruit ability with 100 times amplification be annihilated? Blackbeard couldn't believe it, and the whole person was a little crazy. Even the double fruit ability can't fight Shane. What kind of monster is this guy? Behind him, Deppen, the king of evil government, the Big Barrel, the Wolf, and Van Oka also reacted from the original Baoken. Something is wrong. How can Blackbeard be so powerful? Blackbeard, your plan is going to go wrong. Deppen and the king of evil government immediately panicked and regretted coming to Marineford with Blackbeard. Can't you grow secretly after going out? I haven't enjoyed a good day yet, and I'm being targeted by the Blackbeard Admiral again. Shane looked down at Blackbeard and his group, and the corners of his mouth rose. Then he didn't hesitate and said, "Suppress." Enchantment, Conqueror's Haki, 5. Starting from the top of Blackbeard and others' heads, pseudo-sound waves instantly fell from the sky. Before gravity arrived, the air was compressed by ultimate. When Blackbeard and his group saw Shane speaking, their scalps were numb and their eyes were full of vigilance. Ah! The San Juan wolf immediately began to grow in size, trying to withstand the invisible pseudo-sound waves in the air. Last time, it was this feeling, they were suppressed by the gravity dragon. Deppen, the king of evil, the Big Barrel, and Van Oka hurriedly used all their strength to cover the armament Haki. Blackbeard once again showed the dark mist, and amplified it 100 times, without the need for the armor color on his body. Haki wanted to resist. Just as he finished all this, the force of suppression arrived. With a loud bang, Deppen, the king of evil and others who had no time to escape and could only set up defenses could not hold on for even a second and were immediately pressed to their knees. F. Not even a syllable was pronounced completely. The ground suddenly cracked and collapsed. In the suppressed area, the space seemed to be distorted. Except Blackbeard Teach and the evil wolf, including Shiryu of Rain, could not hold on and was directly pressed to the broken ground. The irresistible violent pressure made them full of fear and experienced what it meant to have no power to resist. And San Juan the evil wolf was not able to withstand it, all thanks to his huge size. But because of his huge size, the whole person quickly sank into the ground, unable to shout, his face twisted, and his body size continued to shrink under the influence of Conqueror's Haki, turning back to the normal size of a giant. And Blackbeard's legs were crushed to the ground, and he bent over. The black mist on his body continued to dissipate. Extinction. puff. Fanoka, Poison Q, and Lafitte were the first to be unable to hold on. They suddenly spit out a large mouthful of blood, rolled their eyes and fainted. Afterwards, the armed colors of Badgers, Depin, the king of evil politics, the Big Barrel, and the evil wolf that fell into the ground were completely crushed. They spit out blood and fainted on the spot. These fainted, but their bodies were still suppressed, and they foamed at the mouth and almost died. And this large area of suppressed area continued to sink, reaching a depth of 10 meters from the original ground level. Among the group, only Blackbeard, who was blessed by the Momo fruit, could hold on and did not faint. But ultimate oppression, coupled with Conqueror's haki to stimulate the spirit, made Blackbeard scream again and again, and his back could not be straightened at all, and he suddenly fell to the ground and wailed. The double pain made him feel like he was being tortured by hell. Listening to Blackbeard's wailing and screaming, the Marines were excited. Dreaming of destroying the naval headquarters? Now it's done. Ha ha ha. Admiral Shane is invincible. Invincible. The Marines cheered, their ears were deafened. Full of security, victory is in sight. The strength displayed by Shane allowed them to release their ups and downs. The same was true for the Marines, as well as the audiences from all over the world in front of the live broadcast. Even if there was no Lee on the scene, they would not care. Blackbeard was like a clown, shouting but couldn't hold on for a minute, and was suppressed and vomited blood and wailed. Others fainted directly, foaming at the mouth, breathing less and breathing out more. The people were very excited and couldn't help shouting, "Mute Admiral is invincible." Some were happy and some were sad. On the pirates' side, everyone looked horrified. Blackbeard, who has seized the power of the Momo fruit and has the power of two fruits, was suppressed by the Mute Admiral. Too strong. This is a monster. A complete pervert monster. The pirates saw such a shocking and frightening scene, how could they dare to fight? He didn't even make a move, and suppressed Blackbeard and his gang as soon as he opened his mouth. This guy is even stronger. Not just a little bit, he is even twice as strong as before. Such a genius can actually appear on the sea. The era of the great pirates is really over. Red-haired Shanks and Whitebeard have such sharp eyesight that they can see the strength of Xian's attack at a glance. After thinking about it in their hearts, the two sea emperors were completely shocked. Getting stronger again. How old is he? Why is there almost no bottleneck and no upper limit to his strength? You can't look at Blackbeard with common sense. Bullet, the Red Earl looked at the sky with a calm look, as if it was natural for Shane to suppress Blackbeard with just one word, and showed a sense of horror. How powerful is he to be so confident that he can be in such a state? You know, Blackbeard just now, even they were afraid of the power of dark fruit. And Rayleigh stared with wide eyes, horrified and surprised to see Blackbeard fall into despair. His heart was like the sky and the earth collapsing. He really opens his mouth and is invincible. In Sabayadi Archipelago, Rayleigh was knocked down by 2 or 3 punches of Shane's clone. Now that he has seen the power of the original body, his heart is deeply shocked. Chapter 72. Marine Fort is now a mess. Red Hair Pirates, Whitebeard Pirates. Red Earl, Bullet, Crocodile, Jinbei. Marine's power is indeed hard to resist. Shane looked at this mess, and the killing intent in his eyes gradually became stronger. Just solve it in one wave. Shane thought about solving Blackbeard in one go, and then what moves to use. Suddenly at this time, the system prompt sounded. Ding, unexpected event triggered. Host does not do it himself, use the summon to end the summit war to get 2000 attribute points. There is an unexpected gain. Shane originally wanted to suppress the whole scene and declare independence, but he didn't expect the system to give him a task here, a full 2000 points. Simple task, why not collect attribute points? However, below. In addition to Blackbeard's screams gradually weakening, Red Hair, Whitebeard, Rayleigh, Red Earl and other top masters felt Shane's sharp eyes. The premonition was extremely dangerous, and my heart was trembling. Unexpectedly, Shanks suddenly restrained the chill. He just wanted to kill us. Shanks lowered his eyes, unable to hide his shock. That chill went straight into his mind. How strong must it be to make observation haki so alert? That's right, but I don't know if he has changed his mind again. Whitebeard looked at Shane and took a deep breath. What exactly is this young and powerful kid thinking? On the contrary, Bullet was aroused and exhaled white air from his nose to give himself courage. TXX Superscript 3. Faced with this attitude, the Red Earl recalled the scene of Impel Down and slowly stepped back. Do you really want to fight this monster that has not appeared for 1,000 years? Even if everyone joins forces, how far can they force him? The Red Earl has no confidence at all. Thinking about it, the Red Earl, who was stepping back, suddenly exerted force, instantly turned into a red figure, and quickly rushed inside. Whitebeard, red-haired Shanks, Bullet, and Rayleigh did not expect him to run away suddenly. For a moment, everyone also wanted to evacuate directly. Anyway, there are Blackbeard and his gang in front. The Red Earl looked back and found Whitebeard, Redhair, and others also began to retreat, and the corners of their mouths could not help but rise. It is safer to retreat together. Just as they were about to reach the edge of the inner bay, they suddenly saw a blur. A figure blocked the Red Earl's retreat. Blackbat. Seeing the figure in front of him, the Red Earl couldn't help but exclaimed. This is too fast, how could Shane come to stop him so quickly? In shock, he subconsciously looked back, but UNN was still standing on the illusory blue dragon in the air. It's a clone. His scalp was numb, and the Red Earl immediately reacted and took a breath of cold air. At this time, exclamations rang out all around. There are Marines, look at pirates. The Red Earl looked around and saw Shane's clones appearing in the other 4 directions. These clones are exactly the same as Shane, with no difference at all. Although they are expressionless, they all have a strong momentum. There is one standing in front of Red Hair Shanks, Beckman, Usopp, and others. There is one person standing on the evacuation route of Whitebeard, Marco, Ace, Inns, and others. There is one person standing in front of Rayleigh, Bullet, Jinbei, and others. The last one guarded the biggest gap in the marine defense line, not allowing any pirates to leave the square. 5 clones in one breath. The Red Earl was horrified. Don't forget that Shane's real body stood on the head of the Azure Dragon in the air. In Marineford Square, the pirates were completely surrounded by Shane and his clones. All the retreat routes were blocked by Shane's clones, and Whitebeard, Redhair and others also looked extremely ugly. So, it's really his clone. Rayleigh exhaled heavily, venting his depression. It doesn't seem so easy to evacuate now. This guy is not only strong, but also has more and more methods. Shanks looked gloomy and solemnly looked at the existence in front of him that looked exactly like Shane. He used to collect intelligence and analyze Shane. Hawk, Freeze, Azure Dragon, Lightning, these are all someone's abilities. Including the clone in front of him, Shanks also thinks it is some kind of ability. Shanks seemed to have been in contact with someone, and his ability was amazing. This speculation was very scary. Shanks was even more shocked when he thought about it when he was facing the clone now. On the Whitebeard pirates' side, many pirates swallowed their throats and were alert to Shank, who appeared in front of them. Hold on. Seeing this, Marco immediately ordered everyone not to attack Shank's clone. He was afraid that someone would not be able to hold back and rush forward, which would cause a large number of casualties. After all, Shank's actions were extremely terrifying and had a wide range. At this time, the Marines were extremely excited. They did not react at first. Why are there so many admirals of Shane? Idiot. These are Admiral Shane's clones. The pirates are completely surrounded by us. Oh my god, Admiral Shane's methods are amazing. With the 3 admirals, we can completely encircle and suppress the pirates. Instantly, the morale of the marine soldiers rose again, and under the command of the vice-admirals, they began to quickly surround the entire square. Shane. Go and destroy the pirates. Today, Marine still wins big. Marshal Sengoku's eyes were full of excitement, and he quickly reminded Shane. He, the 3 admirals, Garp, and others all knew that Shane had extremely powerful clones that could defeat Rayleigh with 3 punches. There were 5 such clones here, which surprised and excited the marine executives. Shane, this guy. Garp's face was solemn, and he began to plan for his grandson in his heart, to see if he could make it go smoothly. There was no way. Shane's formation was really scary. Whitebeard, Redhair, Rayleigh and others would all face the monster's attack. After fighting for so long, Shane has to come. Kizaru wiped the back of his head and sighed. The 5 clones alone immediately made the Sea Emperor, the legendary pirates, dare not move at will, and were about to evacuate. His clones also have extremely powerful strength, and the sense of oppression is too strong. Aokiji Kyuzen flashed a look of surprise, and he could feel the terrifying energy brewing in Shane's clones from a distance. It's no wonder that Whitebeard, Red Hair Shanks, Rayleigh, and others did not dare to break through easily, and they were all weighing the pros and cons and looking for opportunities. Humph, that's exactly what we want. Today, whether it's the four emperors or the remnants of the old era, all must die. Akainu Sakazuki was very happy and excited, clenching his fists and wishing to take action immediately. After today's encirclement, the entire sea can no longer stop the pace of marine justice. Go ahead. Shane. Sengoku looked at the encirclement and couldn't help but speak again. But at this time, Shane shook his head. The dumb Admiral took action. All the evacuating pirates were stopped. Oh my god, why are there 5 dumb admirals? Listen, it's the clones. Those pirates don't dare to cross the line. The people watching the live broadcast were surprised, and then they saw that the pirates were afraid to cross the line, and they cheered again and again. Then, Marshal Sengoku asked Shane to start to destroy the pirates. The people were so excited that they shouted with all their strength, "Marine will win." Unexpectedly, Shane shook his head and refused in front of the whole world. Sengoku's face changed, and the 3 admirals, Garp and Grandma Crane, were also confused. The 5 elders who were watching the live broadcast stared at him. He won't do it. Whitebeard, Red Hair, Rayleigh, and other pirates were ready to fight back, and they were also stunned when they saw this. What does this mean? Just at this moment, the clouds in the sky flashed with thunder. The sound of thunder scared everyone, and they looked up at Shane. Shane raised his hand, opened his mouth slightly, and moved his fingers in the air. The falling thunder slid with Shane's fingers, writing a line of thunder words in the air. Defeat the clone, or escape from the clone, and let it go. After writing, Shane sat cross-legged on the top of the blue dragon, looking like he would not take action again. Even the suppressed Blackbeard also dispersed the suppression. Looking at the thunderous words in the sky, the whole square and even the people watching the live broadcast around the world were all in an uproar. Shane, why is this happening? The Marines couldn't figure it out, and they were all stunned. Stop it, Admiral Shane. The Vice Admiral's breathing became a little faster, and they were very puzzled. And the faces of the senior executives such as Sengoku, Garp, and the 3 admirals darkened, and they gritted their teeth and didn't say a word. What Shane wanted to do, they had no way to interfere, and even Sengoku couldn't order him. He can stop so many strong men with just his clone. Mihawk raised his eyebrows, and couldn't believe Shane's actions. Doflamingo was stunned for a moment, and then couldn't help laughing. Where are you playing? The unexpected action made people think of other possibilities. Empress Hancock, Gecko Moria, and others were all very surprised. Is this to leave a way for the pirates to survive? And below, the pirates were not happy, but looked grim, staring at UNN. Why do you want to do this? What does Blackbat want to do? Please give me flowers. You want to stop everyone with just 5 clones. You can defeat or escape. That's what I mean. In this case, it depends on whether we can unite. The Red Hair Pirates and Whitebeard Pirates were talking about it. Shanks, Whitebeard, Rayleigh, and others looked at each other, as if they were communicating, their eyes flickering. Bullet, Red Earl, and others smelled a familiar routine. There is no conspiracy. Blackbat is playing with us. Seeing that Whitebeard and Rayleigh had not made any move, Bullet could not help but speak, gritting his teeth. This scene was just like an Impel Down. It was just that there were 4 illusory dragons at that time, and now it was replaced by Shane's own clones. His clones are very strong, very strong. At this moment, Rayleigh also spoke up to remind everyone. Don't underestimate his combat experience just because he is a clone. Shane's strength can only be overestimated as much as possible, and he must not be careless. However, Shane looked at the restless pirates below calmly, and the corners of his mouth curled up. This is interesting. As for Sengoku, who started to question loudly, he was too lazy to respond. Meanwhile, outside the battlefield, people all over the world were also in an uproar, and the expectant people did not understand why Shane did not just take action and destroy the pirates with thunder. Instead, they want to create a battlefield where the beasts are trapped. Blackbat Admiral has his own ideas for doing this. He has such great confidence just by relying on his clone, so we should also believe him. That's right, the strongest admiral, no, the strongest human is here, we just need to watch. The people were sweating, and in surprise, the people in the enclosure began to encourage. On the other side, Marie Joyce, between the powers. As the emotions of the five elders changed, a chill spread throughout the wide room. It was like the breath of hell. This shows that the five elders are very angry. Shane, what are you going to do again? Saint Satan bit his back teeth, his eyes wide open, staring at Shane on the screen. He didn't take Marie Joyce seriously at all, and didn't take the world's nobles seriously. Damn it. The polite Saint Mez was also angered by Shane's actions. He's so reckless. He's just a little bit powerful, but he's treating this war as a game. He's not here to help, but to play. Volley and Pit were also furious, gritting their teeth and condemning. It seems that he doesn't want to cherish the opportunity given to him by Sengoku. Nasu Xiaolang clenched the long sword in his hand and said in a concentrated voice. It seems that he no longer takes the world government seriously. When this war is over, we must take action against him. Volley made up his mind and said in a cold tone. The other four also nodded. In that case, let's see how much combat power he can show. When the time comes, we will send enough combat power and punish him severely. Nasu Xiaolang snorted coldly. If you can't use me, then get rid of him. The five elders, because of Impel Down, Risward, and the current situation, have completely made up their minds to deal with Shane. With 5 clones, you want to keep all the pirates present? 5 elders think that is wishful thinking. Many people at the scene also think so, and in the farther New World, there are also a group of people who sneer at this. That was in Wanakuni, a Nagashima. Taking advantage of the public execution, the war is about to begin. Big Mom led his ministers and generals, bypassing marine surveillance, and appeared here. A huge projection screen was set up in the square of a Nagashima castle. Summit War was displayed on it. Big Mom and Kaido sat in the main seat, and behind them were Jin, Quinn, Jack, Katakuri, Smoothie, and other 4 generals. The ministers and the Flying Six were in a row, and from there, the 2 sides of the pirates almost occupied the square and watched the war together. Shane appeared. As long as Whitebeard loses, we will set off immediately. Big Mom laughed out loud with a dessert in her hand. She wished that Whitebeard and the red-haired people would all stay in Marineford. And if Shane appears, it is very likely to be realized. It seems that guy is stronger. After absorbing the Momo fruit, Blackbeard, who has the power of 2 fruits, can't withstand a single blow. Kaido said excitedly at first, and then continued, with red hair, old man Whitebeard will fall completely. We will have a huge amount of territory to divide. In this way, there will be only 2 sea emperors in the future, and their power will also be unprecedentedly soaring. But soon, Shane released his clone and wrote the word thunder. Big Mom and Kaido looked at it and immediately sneered, how arrogant. Shane. Chapter 73. Clone. Are you going to create that kind of illusory blue dragon thing to fight again? Kaido sneered and blurted out. After Kaido's explanation, the Big Mom pirates and the 3 disasters Flying Six also understood. Surprised, everyone sneered. Black Bat Shane is really whimsical. He is very powerful and may be able to stop Whitebeard, Redhair, and others, but it is impossible to rely on clones. Quinn's evaluation was very firm, with sarcasm on the corners of his mouth. He always thought that Shane was too young, so he would do such a thing. Clones are always clones, not the original body, and their strength is limited. Cracker, the biscuit fruit ability user, also expressed his opinion. Indeed, Black Bat Shane is still too careless. It seems that if Whitebeard, Redhair, and others fail, it will take a long time to fight. The Flying Six whispered to each other. Will the marine leaders not see Black Bat Shane messing around? They will probably take action. By then, the pirates will either be left behind or have greater strength because of Black Bat's joining. Mom, no matter what the result is, it's worth it for us to attack. Pero licked his lips and said confidently. That's right, Governor Kaido, Marineford is now a pirate's powerhouse. Although Black Bat Shane is very powerful, he is too confident. It seems that we need to prepare. Jin also didn't believe that Shane could solve the Sea Emperor with his clones. It was a fantasy. Even if Shane himself took action, he would feel it was difficult to face the attack of so many strong men, let alone just clones. Most importantly, who will abide by the rules he set? These guys are all very scary. Big Mom felt that the rule-making was ridiculous. 107. Who can stop 5 clones? Those pirates turned around and left. What about Black Bat? Big Mom thought it was funny. Kaido drank a lot of wine, and was too lazy to continue discussing. As soon as the voice fell, who would have thought that at this time? The picture began to change. Marineford scene. Bullet knew that Shane was not joking. After a glance, he decided to be the first to attack. After 20 years of physical training, he is now almost back to his peak state. His attack is even faster than in prison. Armament Haki covers the whole body, Conqueror's Haki wrapped around his arm, and punched directly at the Shane clone that was blocking the way. The fist caused the air to roll, and everyone heard a bang. The speed of the punch actually broke the sound barrier, which was extremely powerful. And Shane's clone spread his legs and also hit the second stage bullet. This punch, the armed color and Conqueror's Haki wrapped around. The moment of collision, the powerful force impact pushed the air to form an aftermath impact. The ground under the feet of the two exploded, sweeping like a hurricane. The surrounding pirates were forced to retreat again and again, but their eyes were fixed on it, with horror in their eyes. And Bullet was completely unable to compete with the body formed by the pseudo-sound wave in terms of strength. The power of the punch caused severe pain in his arm, and he couldn't help but retreat, step by step. Damn it! Knowing that the clone would be very strong, Bullet didn't expect that he would haki. There is such a big gap in strength. While gritting his teeth, an inorganic substance was attracted and wrapped around his whole body, and then he continued to rush forward. Boom! The ground exploded again, and the wind swept. This time, even the inorganic armor wrapped around Bullet's hands was blown up, and the whole person slid backwards with his feet dragging. It was so strong that Bullet could not feel the limit of the clone's strength, so he had to continue attacking. Everyone was surprised that the clone's power was so strong that it was hard to steal Bullet. And at this time, Bullet fired the first shot, during the attack on the attached child. Red-haired Shanks, Rayleigh, and Whitebeard chose to join forces and attack the clone in front of them. God avoid. Red-haired is extremely fast. Draw the sword. Conqueror's Haki entangled. Armament Haki blessing. Slashing horizontally. Sizzle, 100-meter red sword light, shining with black thunder, threatened the clone from a distance. The sharpness and impact of the divine avoidance move were very strong, and it was originally intended to force the clone back. Unexpectedly, the clone only took a horse stance, and in the horror of Shanks, Rayleigh, and others, he directly grabbed it with both hands. Catching the divine avoidance with bare hands, Shanks couldn't help but feel shocked. But then, the ground under the clone's feet cracked, but his hands really held the sharp sword light firmly. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Conqueror's lightning exploded violently. The clone's arms and even palms were covered with Armament Haki and Conqueror's Haki, and the divine avoidance sword was wiped out alive. The two pirates' members couldn't help but take a breath, their pupils shook, and they were so shocked that they couldn't speak. Be careful. At this time, Rayleigh's voice came, and he also drew his sword and slashed. The azure sword light slashed into a lightning flash, forcing it to stop. The scary thing is that this lightning flash returned to the appearance of Shane's clone, and one hand slapped Rayleigh's sword light away. At this moment, two clones blocked them. Great power. Extremely strong body. Extremely high haki. Whitebeard observed and got 3 extreme evaluations, and his face couldn't help but look a little ugly. This kid, even the clone is so strong. Little did he know that Shane's clone hadn't activated its ability yet. Marco. You cooperate and stop the third one from coming. Taking the opportunity, Whitebeard also moved, shouting, and slashed at the clone in front of Rayleigh with the Naginata. Haki and ability are entangled. With the power of shock fruit, the sword energy of the sword is particularly fierce. But the clone still does not dodge or avoid. It only sees its body sink slightly, and then punches out, hard against Whitebeard's sword. Haki penetrates bones, shocking destruction. In the cracks of the atmosphere, the clone's fist accurately resists the blade of Whitebeard's Naginata. Amid the roar, the cracks on the ground continue to spread. Whitebeard gritted his teeth and continued to exert force with both hands, causing the ground where he and the clone stood to sink continuously. Newgate. Rayleigh said nothing and joined in with his sword. At this time, Redhair was entangled with another clone, creating opportunities for Rayleigh and Whitebeard. At the same time, Beckman and Marco said, even if it's just his clone, we can't underestimate it. Let's break through together. It doesn't necessarily mean fighting. Even if we fight, we should send the weaker ones out first. We have to contain them even if we break through. Marco understood Beckman's idea and wanted to delay other clones for his father, so he nodded immediately and reached an agreement with other captains. At the same time, the Red Hair Pirates' cotters and the Whitebeard Pirates' captains rushed in one direction. Behind them, Ace carried Luffy on his back, and many members followed. As a result, before they rushed out 100 meters, the fourth clone on the route moved. The black lightning of Conqueror's haki spread, causing weak members behind the pirates to fall unconscious. Immediately, the clone Conqueror's haki entangled a punch. The clone punched out a shock wave, and the ground along the way was hit with deep grooves. The powerful force made the people led by Malcolm look very nervous. "Can't hide!" Beckman shouted, and took the lead to raise his arms, armament haki all over his body, blocking the front. "Can't let go, because there are many people behind them. If you dodge, it is likely to cause casualties." Seeing this, Marco and others also set up defenses immediately. The Phoenix Flame spread out, blocking everyone in front of Marco, and Marco directly opened the mythical beast form. Jaws's body was shining, and he rushed up. Baista waved his double swords, Usopp, Lucky Lu, and others released armament haki. More than a dozen captains, plus the cotters of Red Hair Pirates, formed a solid defense. The next second, the punch carried a rolling air wave and slammed into everyone. The ground cracked, forming a crack that continued to spread. The punch was so powerful that it lasted for more than 10 seconds before it finally stopped. After coming to their senses, Beckman, Marco, and others found that dozens of people were actually punched several meters away by Shane's clone. Although they were not injured and their defense was strong, such a result made everyone sweat. Just one punch was so powerful. And how much consumption would they have to withstand the second and third punches of the clone? The captains and cotters were panicked from the bottom of their hearts and were frightened by Shane's clone. Suddenly at this moment, the wild sand rolled. Starting from the ground, the gravel formed a huge blade and chopped directly at the clone's head. Desert Sword. The person who made the move was the former Shichibukai, Crocodile. However, this full-strength storm slash landed on the neck of the unprepared clone, and only made a muffled sound. The clone didn't even tremble, relying on the pseudo-sonic body and the enchanted armed color defense, it easily blocked it. Phoenix Seal. At this time, Marco moved, and in the beast form, he used haki to grab Shane's clone. At the same time, Usopp, Beckman, Lucky Lu and other gun masters fired high-intensity special bullets. Especially Beckman, who even wrapped Conqueror's haki, dragged thousands of black lightning, and shot at Shane's clone. For a moment, even the air in this area became irritable. After the bullets, it was Hongo, Gabu, Baista, and others who used swords and lasers. In the blink of an eye, dozens of fierce attacks covered the clone. This level of attack, if it was Shanks, Rayleigh, Bullet would have to temporarily avoid the front. Shane's clone seemed to feel the threat, no longer passively defending, but taking a defensive posture, with amazing thunder power and armament haki emerging from his body. His clone won't dodge. Beckman seemed to have caught something, his eyes lit up, but he was not sure whether it was not powerful enough to dodge. But this kind of attack is almost the strongest wave on the field now. Boom. At the moment of contact, Shane's clone was completely surrounded by flames. Haki and lightning kept flashing, the ground sank, and it went in all directions like a carpet. It worked. Usopp took out a lot of haki and panted slightly, whispering in a low voice. But soon, he showed a look of horror in his eyes. The aftermath calmed down, and Shane's clone gradually appeared in the dust. The thunder still wrapped him in it, and he was almost not hurt at all. How is this possible? Hongo, Gabu, and others were about to stare with their eyes popped out, unable to believe it. Such a fierce attack, but no damage at all. Marco was even more dumbfounded. Haki or ability, a joint attack can't break the defense? Bullshit. But no matter how surprised and shocked everyone is, the fact is this. The pseudo-sonic body plus the thunder protection, and the armed color attached to the pseudo-sonic, the attack is not strong enough to shake the clone. And this scene was so loud. Marineford trembled a few times, and was noticed by everyone at the scene. Shane's clone can be so strong. Sengoku, Garp, the three admirals and others were amazed. The marine soldiers had stiff faces, and they were already dumbfounded, and they couldn't express their inner shock. Is this a clone? Are you sure it's not the real body? Just a clone blocked all the pirates. Even the people watching from all over the world were shocked by Shane's 5 clones. This is too exaggerated. At the same time, Big Mom, who disdained and sneered at the rules of blocking the clones and defeating the escape, was completely stunned by Kaido and his gang. Big Mom pointed at the screen, and pink mist rose from her body. Kaido smashed the wine pot in his hand, and his face turned dark in shock. Both of them were speechless. The clones who looked down on Shane now completely slapped them in the face. 5 clones. 2 of them blocked Whitebeard, Rayleigh, and Red Hair, 1 blocked all the members of the 2 pirates, and 1 blocked the Red Earl. The last one even held Bullet down and beat him up with his pure body. And many cotters and captains joined forces to attack, and the amazing power was so powerful that even Kaido was not 100% sure to resist it. But the Thunder clone blocked it without any injury. How shocking! Behind Kaido and Big Mom, the 3 disasters, the 4 generals 4.7 stars, the Flying 6, and the ministers who saw such a scene were all stunned and unbelievable. How could it be? Blackbeard's clone can also be so strong. Too incredible. Is this Blackbeard's confidence? Monster. It's a complete monster. Whitebeard pirates, Red Hair pirates may really not be able to get out of Marineford. For a moment, everyone on Ghost Island didn't know whether to be happy or discouraged, and stood there in a daze. After a long time, Kaido looked at the battle over there with Whitebeard, gritted his teeth and said, "Old man Whitebeard, can't you deal with 2 clones too?" Kaido still remembers Whitebeard's strength. It's normal that he can't beat Shane himself, but why can't he even deal with his clone? At the scene, Whitebeard and Rayleigh, each with a naginata and a long sword, kept swinging at the clone alternately. Sword energy everywhere. Vibration and explosion. Many attacks hit the vital parts, but the clone was still able to withstand the amazing destructive power of the 2 without a single scratch on its body. Red-haired Shanks, Red Earl, and Bullet each challenged the clone. The result is predictable. All 3 of them were completely suppressed by the clone. Kaido and Big Mom's faces were as dark as they could be. When they lose, the matter of dividing the territory will be over. Kaido suddenly spoke, staring at the screen, and said in a muffled voice, "Form an alliance. Join forces." Big Mom understood Kaido's meaning without saying a word. "Are you kidding me? Haven't you seen how powerful Xiaoen's clone is? Even his clone is like this, then he himself must be even more terrifying now." The 2 Sea Emperors completely gave up the idea and reached a consensus to form an alliance. Chapter 74. Marineford Square, the battle scene. Shane sat cross-legged on top of the Azure Dragon, looking down. And the Marines, the audiences from all over the world were shocked. "This is incredible. Blackbeard, is this your game?" Doflamingo decided to join Shane, and now that he saw that the clones were extremely powerful, he couldn't help but be more excited than Marine, dancing with excitement. "I originally thought that those legends were strong enough, and Shane should not be much different no matter how strong he was. I didn't expect it to be so shocking." Empress Hancock witnessed the amazing battle, and her heart was trembling. Clone, that was just Shane's clone. Gecko Moria felt deeply terrified. Now that she was on the battlefield, she felt like an ant, and her steps unconsciously retreated. Tyrant Bear was not very conscious at the moment, but because of the combat power displayed by Shane, he was worried about the future path of the Revolutionary Army. As for Bonnie, Tyrant Bear was not worried. In fact, Bonnie had been taken away a long time ago and was no longer impelled down. All over the world, there was an uproar now. The dumb Admiral is not playing, he really has the strength. All pirates are suppressed and can't break through. I said, as long as the Blackbeard Admiral comes, the pirates will lose. The people's cheers never stopped, and they were extremely happy. In this case, the pirates will definitely be eliminated by the Marine. They will also usher in a peaceful life without the invasion of pirates, without having to worry. Indeed. The situation is now clear. Almost all the Marine soldiers did not take action again, because they were not needed at all. Sengoku, Garp, and the 3 admirals also became spectators. "This kid is so strong just in his clone, I'm afraid his original body is stronger than rocks." Garp gave Shane the greatest affirmation. He even felt in his heart that rocks might not be more fishy than Shane now. "The strongest admiral, this title is not enough to describe it," Aokiji said with a sigh. "It looks like the pirates will soon be unable to hold on, we will wait for the end." Kizaru seemed very surprised and put his hands in his pockets waiting for a ceasefire. We should have let Shane join the battle earlier. And Akainu snorted with some dissatisfaction. Even so, the three of them still sighed in amazement. Shane's clone was more brilliant than Ping could imagine. At this time, the battle continued in the square. The inorganic matter on Bullet's body gathered more and more, almost as big as a giant. He waved his fists and punched Shane's clone again and again. The clone did not tolerate Bullet and also fought back with both fists. Every time they clashed, the solidified inorganic matter would be shattered by the clone and scattered. Every time they clashed, the haki of the two vibrated, and Bullet could feel the strong force acting on his body in the center of the combined armor, causing the blood and chi in his body to surge, which was very uncomfortable. But what everyone present didn't expect was, the clone, fighting haki with his body, suddenly changed the fighting state. A white halo appeared on his fist. Seeing this, Bullet couldn't help but be shocked. The power of shock. Just like that dragon. He remembered the terrifying ability that Impel Down faced, the irresistible feeling of failure. No, can't use that again. With the roar, Bullet's fist accumulated inorganic matter and became bigger and bigger. Finally, it covered the armed color, wrapped around Conquerors, and smashed towards the clone like an iron mountain. The two blasted each other in the air. The atmosphere cracked. As the crack spread, Marineford broke again and again, shaking continuously. The amazing power crushed Bullet's armed color, leaving only black lightning flashing. And that huge fist had a big crack, which continued to spread and cracked to Bullet's armor. With a loud bang, the ability to combine suddenly shattered. Bullet's figure was like a kite with a broken string, crashing towards Beckman and Marco. Because the armor offset most of the force, Bullet did not vomit blood, but his muscles felt as if they were torn apart, and finally crashed into the ground and sank. Beckman, Marco, and others were taking turns to attack another clone, and Bullet was shocked. Bullet can't stand it anymore. The Cotters were shocked. This means that the pressure on their side will be twice as great. Misfortunes never come alone. The dust around Bullet hadn't settled yet. Another red figure fell in the air, and with a bang, a big hole was smashed near the Cotters. Lonely Red. Everyone couldn't help but scream in fear. Two legendary figures were beaten so miserably by Shane's clone. Everyone be careful. Beckman couldn't help but shout, asking everyone to disperse. As expected. Two lightning bolts came in an instant and landed at the two big pits. It turned out to be Shane's two clones. Originally, they were the opponents of Bullet, the Red Earl. Beckman, Marco, and the others immediately turned as dark as a gloomy face. All of a sudden, three clones are here. Usopp cursed, feeling irritated. They couldn't hurt just one clone after fighting for so long, but the opponent had to block all of them with one punch. Now that Bullet, the clone that the Red Earl was fighting against, has also arrived, the pressure on them has increased sharply. There's nowhere to run even if you want to run. Marco spread his wings and swept low in the sky, telling everyone with a gloomy face. Even if it looks like the door is wide open, in fact, the clone can stop it in an instant. The current solution is to fight in a joint melee. The Red Earl pulled away the gravel on his body and stood up, coughing twice and said. Before he could finish his words, a clone turned into lightning and arrived instantly. Thunder Fist fell directly towards the Red Earl. Usopp, Lucky Lu, and others who were closest didn't even react. The fist fell, and the Red Earl tried his best to dodge, but barely dodged it. The next second, the thunder exploded, causing a huge explosion. With a bang, everyone was forced to retreat in the air wave. Rubber. Giant spear. Luffy woke up at some point, and when he saw Shane's clone, he immediately joined the battle. Ace couldn't stop him and chased after him. One of the three clones immediately jumped up and kicked Luffy's fist. Ka! In an instant, Luffy was frozen from his fist into a big hand ice sculpture. And with this kick, he flew backwards. Now he is at this level fighting Shane, it's like a novice fighting a full-level boss, and he will be broken at the touch. Ace saw Luffy turned into an ice sculpture and flew backwards, and immediately got angry. Crossfire. Logia Maramara fruit, looks very fierce. When the frozen clone fell, it jumped again, passing through the flames in front of Ace's surprised eyes, and came directly in front of him. With the armed color and Conqueror's wrapped fist, it hit Ace in the air and made him spit blood and fly backwards. Ace. Luffy. Marco, Jinbei, and others were very anxious, and they stepped forward to block the frozen clone and worked together. However, the clone who began to use his ability was as bright as an ancient beast. The cold air of the frozen clone fell to the ground along the body. The clone who fought with Beckman and Bullet had a purple halo on his arm. And the last clone on their side had a white halo on both fists. Gravity clone. Shock clone. The clone can use all the enchanted abilities, but each one is biased towards one ability. Direct confrontation is disadvantageous. Beckman's heart skipped a beat, and a bad premonition spread, and he immediately reminded everyone. In the end, he was still a step too late. Seeing Ace being knocked away, Marco and Jinbei followed to resist. Murky Karate 7000 tiles roundhouse kick. Jinbei kicked the frozen clone fiercely. Little did he know that in such a hurry, his wet fishman touched the cold clone, and was frozen into a large ice sculpture in just a few seconds of surprise. The clone took a hard hit, and even his body did not tremble. Jinbei. Seeing this, Marco did not dare to get close to him. Jaws, Vista, and other captains of the Whitebeard pirates also rushed here to support. At this time, the frozen clone bent its legs, and the next moment the ground broke, and it took the initiative to kill the Whitebeard pirates. Rikyo's meteor hammer was directly caught by the frozen clone, and the frost spread instantly. What? Rikyo only had time to make a sound. Then he was hit by a punch from the frozen clone and flew backwards. Puff. Haki penetrated his body, and the cold air invaded. Before he could spit out a mouthful of blood, he was frozen into ice while flying backwards. Beckman, who was not far away, wanted to support, but just raised his pistol, and the terrifying pressure came instantly. Not good. At the critical moment, Beckman dodged quickly and barely escaped. And where the pressure fell, a big hole was immediately smashed by gravity. Usopp, Lakila, Gabu, and others did not dare to be distracted at all, and quickly fired a round of haki bullets to suppress the gravity clone's pursuit. At the same time, on Mako's side, the remaining captains surrounded the frozen clone. But it was like a wolf among sheep. No one can withstand the fist of the clone. Ultimate power plus armed color, conqueror's haki entanglement and freezing cold. Whoever touches it will fly. Fortunately, Marco can thaw the captains and use demon fire to slowly heal them. But even so, everyone still vomits blood. The clone with the ability is really powerful. Red Earl and Bullet wanted to slip away directly because the cotters and captains shared the pressure. But the Zhen clone in front of them didn't give them any chance at all. Damn. Is it really going to be tortured to death by Shane's clone here? Bullet roared angrily. The awakened fusion ability began to absorb inorganic matter crazily. Seeing the Red Earl, she could only grit his teeth and say, defeat one and everyone will leave. This is the rule set by Blackbeard. He had no choice but to buy time for Bullet. So, the umbrella sword in the Red Count's hand began to emit a ghostly aura. Come on. Swoosh. His figure was like a ghost, and he moved towards the Zhen clone. And the Zhen clone, with his moves opening and closing, completely ignored the Red Count's body movements. The fist with a white halo smashed directly in the direction he came from. Haki was entangled, and there was a Zhen force. In an instant, the weather exploded. The ground shook violently, and the powerful fist force directly enveloped the Red Count's area. This guy. The Red Count was also helpless, and he could not avoid it and had to bite the bullet to receive it. But the moment the umbrella sword and the fist force came into contact in the air, a huge force came, and the vibration made the Red Count tremble all over. Then, the whole person flew backwards like a kite with a broken string. A lot of blood sprayed. At this time, Bullet's combined giant was just formed, with a terrifying super large body like Little Oz. While knocking the Red Earl away, Bullet punched down. The huge fist wrapped around Haki was like a meteor falling from the sky. Boom. The ground that was originally shaking suddenly trembled 3 times. One hit was successful. Bullet was overjoyed. See how hard you are. The size represents the power of the combined giant. As a result, before he had time to be happy for long, a lot of cracks appeared where the fist pressed. Vibration. Horrible vibration. The square was already unbearable, and the scarred ground was torn open by 960 like an abyss. The huge movement attracted everyone's attention. And Bullet didn't have time to care about anything else, his arm and fist exploded. The vibration force was unstoppable, and his shoulder was torn open. His huge body staggered backward and fell directly because of the terrifying force. Bullet, who was in the middle of it, was finally invaded by this force and spit out a mouthful of blood. However, the attack of the Zhen clone was not over yet. A flash of lightning appeared on the head of the combined giant and punched it. Instantly, the earth shook continuously, and another crack was torn open, and Bullet also screamed. At this moment, at the other end, Shanks dragged a clone with difficulty. Both sides were using pure haki to fight, and black lightning burst. God avoid. God destroy. One after another terrifying sword energy slashed at the clone, but no injury was seen. After several rounds back and forth, Shanks's one arm trembled and the tiger's mouth hurt. Your clone should focus on haki. Shanks is good at observation. After seeing the other 4 clones, he understood the strength advantage of his opponent. Yes, this is indeed a haki clone, focusing on conquerors. Shanks could even feel that Shane's clone haki was on par with him, and even more powerful in this regard. And haki's clone was also more powerful than Shanks. It was unbelievable. This was also the reason why many big moves were blocked by haki's clone. This was completely a super-enhanced version of Garp. How can we win if we keep going like this? The more he thought, the slower Shanks' reaction became. Sure enough, haki's clone flashed with lightning and was in front of him again. The fist flashing with black lightning came down with a bang. Wrapped around conquerors, the fist was like a meteor bomb. Shanks' hair stood up, and he quickly dodged it with his observation color to sense the ultimate danger. The next second, the fist flashed with fire and fell to the ground, and it exploded like a bomb, bringing with it a compressed air burst, smashing a big hole in the ground. The surrounding area affected the headquarters building and some buildings, all of which were destroyed and collapsed. Haki's clone is more powerful than the ability clone. Shanks' heart trembled, his face looked like ink was about to drip, and he gritted his teeth and wanted to fight hard. God's meteorite. The famous sword griffin in his hand wrapped around haki, and slashed out a huge sword energy of more than 100 meters. Haki's clone failed to hit Shanks, and seeing that Shanks was still actively attacking, he punched conquerors again. The conquerors' haki of both sides collided in the air, forming a dazzling explosion point. Dense black lightning swept across the ground and exploded. Countless pirates and marines who were not strong enough were knocked to the ground by conquerors. But then, the sword energy of God's meteorite cracked, and haki's clone's fist went forward, directly hitting Shanks, and smashed him to the ground. Chapter 75. The shocking aftermath spread. Dust flew everywhere. Shanks lay in the pit, blood oozing from the corner of his mouth. Too strong, Shane's clones were all incredibly strong, like monsters. And when Shanks was knocked away, Rayleigh and Whitebeard were also not to be underestimated. Whitebeard and Rayleigh attacked alternately, one hand vibrating, the other hand slashing with ghost energy. At the very least, it takes a mission-level haki to cause some damage to him. Rayleigh slashed with a sword. The clone was bathed in lightning, and with a palm strike, the lightning directly melted the sword energy. Whitebeard followed closely behind, grabbing the air with his big hand and pulling it directly. The electricity on the lightning clone seemed to be affected, flashing violently. Rayleigh took the opportunity to strike with another sword. The azure swordlight chopped it with a dull sound. The next moment, the clone flashed with lightning, disappeared from the spot, and appeared beside Rayleigh, smashing down with a fist of lightning. Even though he had raised his sword to block, Rayleigh was still knocked back. Whitebeard's expression changed, and his naginata with dense black lightning jumped up and fell down. But in this process, lightning flashed, and the clone did not retreat but advanced, approaching Whitebeard, and punched again. The battle-hardened Whitebeard loosened his naginata and swung his backhand fist violently. Thunder, shock. Two forces flashed in the air. Whitebeard shouted and increased the shock force, causing the thunder clone to tremble violently, the atmosphere in front of him to crack, and his body to be constantly damaged by the vibration. The powerful power of the clones also hit Whitebeard through lightning. In the end, Whitebeard retreated repeatedly, spitting out a mouthful of blood, and his chest was charred. He and Rayleigh cooperated to attack the lightning clones for more than a dozen times. But every time it didn't work, and now he was spitting blood and dizzy. Even the clones are so strong. If you weren't Marine, Roger would probably be happy to be alive. Whitebeard felt that he was defeated, and his old heart became melancholy. But he knew that he couldn't fall down yet. Looking up, every one of Shane's 5 clones was too strong. Red Hair gradually couldn't stop it, and even saw his son and the people of Red Hair pirates being beaten back. Bullet could be heard screaming. However, in the eyes of Marine and audiences around the world, it was extremely exciting. In front of the live broadcast screens set up by major islands and kingdoms, everyone present couldn't help but look excited as they watched the screen projections. Red Earl, Bullet, the 2 legends were knocked away first. Look, Shane Admiral's 3 clones gathered. Oh my god, too powerful. The captain of the Whitebeard pirates couldn't stand it either, and was knocked away and frozen into ice sculptures one by one. Haha. Victory is in sight. Look, Beckman, Usopp and others from the Red Hair pirates couldn't hold on either, and were beaten to spit blood. Bullet stood up again, and fell down again. Red Hair couldn't stand it either. The 5 clones, every time they mercilessly knocked the pirates away, made the audience amazed again and again. Seeing Bullet, Red Earl, Rayleigh, Red Hair, Whitebeard, and others spit blood one after another, cheers rang out. Shane Admiral is invincible. Invincible. The pirates are going to lose. The people were ecstatic, the pirates were already defeated, and there was no way they could pose a threat to Shane. Too powerful. Shane Admiral is absolutely the strongest in the world. Yes, what a shocking strength. Each clone seems to have several abilities. Shane Admiral has broken through common sense. Every time the pirates stood up and fell down, everyone cheered, talked, and waited for the final victory. And at the scene, the Marines who were still standing there watching the battle were extremely shocked, even terrified. Marine Fort, completely destroyed. The headquarters building can hardly hold on. The base can be rebuilt if it's gone. If the pirates win, there will be no Marine Fort in the world. It's all thanks to Admiral Shane. Yes, the pirates have already lost. Even the Sea Emperor and the legendary pirates can't hold on one by one. There is no chance of turning over. The Marines cheered more and sweated profusely because they were crazy about Shane. The admiration for strength was perfectly interpreted at this moment, and the invincible strength completely conquered every fighter. No matter what, Shane will win after all. Sengoku turned from worry to joy, and breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. If he could win, it didn't matter if he came to clean up the mess. With Shane here, the Great Pirates era can finally come to an end. Akainu Sakazuki was shocked by Shane's invincible strength and spoke excitedly, as if he saw his dream come true. Even Sengoku had never seen Akainu like this. Yes, it's time to end the era of big pirates. Kizaru was so shocked that his mouth was formed, and his eyes turned as his clones repelled and knocked away big pirates one by one. On the contrary, Kaido and Big Mom were completely dumbfounded, and their faces were banged by their previous sneers. They were completely afraid of Shane. At the same time, Marie joys, between power. Watching Shane's clones perform Kamui throughout the whole process, from warm-up to releasing their abilities, from knocking away Bullet to Whitebeard spitting blood. The 5 elders stared at him without blinking. The more they looked, the gloomier their faces became, and the more unhappy they felt. Because in their minds, Shane had been sentenced to death. After today, if we let him go on like this, I'm afraid he will become the biggest disaster. Yes, this Shane will definitely be on par with Joy Boy in the future. Absolutely can't let him stay. 5 elders. The eyes of the elders flashed with danger, and the aura of murder was everywhere. Just then, a sound of footsteps came. The judge with a moon-shaped head, knight's clothes, and a long sword on his waist walked into the power room with his head held high. 5 elders, why did you call me here? This person sat down on the sofa, and did not take off the small sunglasses on his face, which made him look very arrogant. He was even too lazy to glance at the live broadcast. The 5 elders seemed to be used to it. Among them, Saint Wolikua crossed his fingers, looked at him and said, Saint Garin, there is something that you need to do in person. There is a young man named Shane in Marine, who is an admiral. You need to eliminate him. Eliminate? Saint Garin thought about it and really knew Shane, the little guy who is called the strongest admiral and killed Saint Chuanzi Wade, the Waste. Saint Satan nodded and said, that's him. Humph, he deserved to die for killing celestial dragons. Saint Garin hated people who defiled the descendants of God. And he also thought that it was just a little guy, a young man, a piece of cake. That's right, it's useless to us, we must get rid of it. Mez Sheng pointed to the projection, where Shane was playing Kamui's clone, and said sternly. Jialinsheng then put down his sunglasses and looked over. As a result, he was stunned. Jialinsheng thought that the so-called strongest Admiral was full of water. How strong could it be? So he never took it to heart. But now, when he looked at the live broadcast, the more he watched, the more wrong it was. 5 identical guys are fighting against so many strong men, and they are firmly in the upper hand and completely suppressing them. Who is this? Jialinsheng asked in surprise. He is Shane. To be precise, Shane's clone. The one in the air is his real body. 5 elders introduced him to Jialinsheng. Jialinsheng's eyes moved from the curtain to Shane, who was sitting cross-legged on the top of Qinglong, and he couldn't help but be more confused. It seems to be completely different from what he thought. Look at the clones below. The 5 clones used their own moves, and Rehuan's kick was powerful. That's Whitebeard. There are Shanks, and Pluton Rayleigh, the Red Earl. Bullet. So many legends and the entire Pirates of the Sea Emperor? Completely suppressed by the 5 clones, even Jialinsheng saw Shanks being beaten and flying around. Can't stand a few moves at all. Go fight such a monster and destroy him? Jialinsheng's heart was suddenly unsure. What a joke. Whitebeard himself can't beat him. But this can't be said in front of the 5 elders. Rulinsheng still has to save face. Silently pondered for a while. Jialinsheng could only say helplessly, "Everyone, are you sure you want to put such a guy on the opposite side? This is not the time to save face, but to really consider the gains and losses. The Knights of God cannot guarantee that they can defeat such an opponent." Jialinsheng had to ask the 5 elders carefully. "Are you sure you want to put Shane on the opposite side?" The 5 elders were silent. Absolute strength makes even the top powers in the world give in and hesitate. Because so far, the 5 elders have not really been sure of dealing with Shane except for reporting. Back to the Marineford battlefield. Blackbeard's group was crushed at the beginning and has not been able to stand up yet. The battle is still going on. Shane's 5 clones are too powerful. The pirates have a strong desire to survive and firm beliefs. Even if they are beaten by the clones and vomit blood, they insist on getting up and fighting. But they can never threaten the clones, let alone defeat them. The 2 major pirates groups plus Bullet, Red Earl, Crocodile, and others persisted. But in fact, the pirates' persistence in attacking is not without effect. The more desperate the situation, the calmer you must be. Avoiding the gravity fist of the gravity clone, Beckman wiped the bloodline from the corner of his eyes, gasped, and glanced at the 5 clones. Suddenly, he turned his head and looked at the lightning clone who was fighting with Whitebeard and Rayleigh. The lightning was extinguished by the shock ability. In the interweaving of light and darkness, Beckman saw that there was a crack on its shoulder. That's right, after being attacked by Whitebeard and Rayleigh with all their strength and repeatedly exchanging injuries, the clone was still damaged. The clone is not invincible. Its upper limit is not far away. Beckman was very surprised. This might be the key to their victory. In surprise, Beckman looked up at Shane and found some details. Black Bat Shane is sweating. Control, yes, it's control. Whether it's energy or control, Shane himself needs to consume it. With 5 clones, no matter how much physical strength he has, it will be consumed. Beckman, as the person with the highest IQ, immediately worked quickly in his mind, thinking about the best plan. Boom. The close-range wave impact made Beckman roll out, and Usopp flew past him with blood overflowing from his mouth. But at this time, Beckman also made a decision and immediately informed Gabu beside him. "Don't shout too loudly, go over." The consumption of physical strength and the damaged clones were passed on by word of mouth, and the information was quickly exchanged in the limited battlefield. At the same time, there was Beckman's plan. Everyone has a unified goal to defeat the lightning clone. As long as the clone is too damaged and Shane's physical strength is too much, he will definitely not be able to continue to repair the clone. This is because Beckman considered that Shane could repair the invisible shield before. The most important thing is to prevent everyone from attacking Shane's body. Beckman knew that if they fought the clones honestly, Shane would still play with them. If he annoyed him, he would be doomed if he attacked them himself. The strength of Shane's original body already made Beckman feel invincible. The specific plan to defeat the lightning clone was for all the cotters and captains to gather and drag the 4 clones. The remaining top strongmen such as Whitebeard were to destroy the damaged clones with all their strength. Let's start. Beckman took a deep breath and looked into Shank's eyes. The next second, Shanks fought and retreated with the Haki clone, and was punched in the mouth and bleeding. Finally, he came to Beckman's side. Styshy. Black lightning was violent. The special bullet shot from Beckman's hand to stop the Haki clone from chasing Shanks. At the same time, Crocodile, Jinbei, Marco, Ace, Vista, Lucky Lot, etc., all gathered together and surrounded the four clones. Bullet, the Red Earl, took the opportunity to escape and rushed towards Go to Whitebeard. Good money. I hope this opportunity works. Red Earl was a little irritated, and rushed over with gritted teeth. As for running away, Shane was right above his head, and he was afraid that the clones would entangle him, so he simply didn't consider it. And watching the changes in the pirates' camp, Sengoku's eyes changed, feeling bad, looked up and wanted to remind UNN. But he saw Shane smiled slightly, obviously also found something strange. It's really interesting. Although Shane was constantly consuming physical strength, he could see the obvious changes below clearly, and he said in his heart, "Stop. There is no need at all." At this time, the pirates' counterattack plan officially began. The cotters and captains, together with Crocodile and others, could hardly delay the four clones for a long time. A group of people were almost knocked away by the clones with one punch, spitting blood, wrapped in Marco's demon fire, and desperately came back to delay. Whitebeard finally gathered all the top warriors. Rayleigh, Red Earl, Bullet, plus Red Hair and Whitebeard himself. 5 people burst out Conqueror's Haki at the same time. For a moment, the momentum soared into the sky and shattered the clouds. The sea was surging and extremely scary. The violent momentum made all the Marines on the scene change their faces drastically. These big pirates, try your best to fight. This is the first move. Rayleigh's sword is wrapped with amazing Conqueror's Haki. A trace of ghostly aura lingers in it. Shank's Conqueror's is even more sharp than his master. Griffin's sword is wrapped with Haki, and the black lightning is entangled with everyone. Whitebeard's arms are strong, and his muscles bulge like a dragon. The Red Earl closed his eyes and raised his sword, and his breath merged into the sword body with the Conqueror's explosion. Bullet roared, and continued to cast the combined giant, absorbing a large amount of inorganic matter. For a while, the hellish horror spread throughout the venue, but Shane still sat cross-legged indifferently. Chapter 76. At this point, the 5 people's goal is very clear. Bullet simply stopped hiding and raised his hands. The combined giant, as huge as Little Oz, reached out to the lightning clone. He clapped his palms together, trying to control the lightning clone like slapping a mosquito. Statidith. The thunder sounded. The clone did not dodge, but burst out lightning and resisted Bullet's double palm attack. With a bang, the airwaves rolled out. The lightning spread like snakes along the arms of the combined giant. Everywhere it passed, it was charred by electricity. And the huge palm began to crack and collapsed at any time. Seeing that the lightning was about to spread to the center of the body, Bullet couldn't help but yelled, "Hurry up." If he was electrocuted, he would spit blood at least. Red Hair, Whitebeard, Rayleigh, and the Red Earl did not disappoint Bullet. At the critical moment, 3 figures fell from the sky. Shanks dragged the sword with one hand until they were within the distance, and slashed it down with one sword. God falls, destroy. The Red Earl turned into a red figure, with ghostly aura all over his body, full moon, red shadow. Rayleigh's sword was in a straight line with his body, and he shouted with dense black lightning, "Break." Whitebeard had been accumulating strength for a long time, and he flashed over, aimed at the clone, and punched hard in the air with both fists. Crack. The exaggerated atmospheric cracks spread wildly. Marineford seemed to be completely collapsed. The sea twisted and turned, and the ultimate shock force exploded. No one could stand firm at this moment. The shocking fluctuations shook everyone's mind. 4 attacks, including Bullet's Haki, regardless of the thunder and lightning, increased the intensity. Adding to Conqueror's attack, at the critical point of the air, the sword energy, the ability is the ability, completely turned into energy and poured on the clone. A large amount of Conqueror's Haki flashed with light. The black thunder and lightning made this scene look like the end of the world. 3 sword energies fell on the clone at the same time. It can be said that all attacks acted on the clone. The thunder and lightning were finally destroyed by the joint attack of the 5 strong men. The cracks on the clone's shoulders also began to expand. Boom. The ground sank, and this corner of Marineford was about to be unable to withstand such a terrifying attack. Sengoku, Garp, the three admirals and others, including the Shichibukai, were all shocked and stared at this scene with wide eyes. They actually teamed up to destroy a clone of Shane. Marines and Shichibukai stared, not daring to blink. The cracks on the clone were getting bigger and bigger, gradually intensifying. They really did it. Shane's clone has a flaw. Sengoku, the three admirals and other marines were immediately shocked. The clone is broken. The legend is worthy of being a legend. There is still an opportunity in this situation. Hancock, Doflamingo Shichibukai felt shocked, staring intently, with cold sweat on their foreheads. This is the strongest duel in the whole battle. Whether they can escape depends on this one blow. And the people around the world who watched the live broadcast were very worried when they saw the cracks on the clones getting bigger and bigger on the screen. No, it won't. Shane Admiral's clone can't lose. The people couldn't believe it and held their breath nervously. If they were really defeated by the pirates, according to Shane's rules, they could all leave smoothly. This made the people very emotional. Little did they know that Marshal Sengoku also clenched his fists at this time. Shane, you are really going to play too hard. The location of the lightning clone. The crack spread to the waist, just need to work harder to defeat it. Whitebeard's muscles squirmed, and his fists hit together, roaring to increase his strength, maintaining the cracked atmosphere, and continuously outputting the shock force. Rayleigh, Red Earl, Shanks cut from the sky, and now they also persisted, constantly increasing their own strength, Haki infusion. Determined to take down the lightning clone. The terrifying power poured out, not only did it not stop, but it continued to increase. The sky and the earth changed color. The sense of deterrence enveloped the entire sea area. This corner of Marineford also completely collapsed, and a huge gully sank. Just like the cracks spreading on the clone is about to collapse and break. Suddenly, the cotters and captains were beaten by the four clones and vomited blood. Then, the clones turned into lightning and disappeared on the spot. In the blink of an eye, they appeared in front of the lightning clone that was about to break. Merge. Cheyenne's body sat cross-legged on the green dragon head, and his mouth moved slightly. In an instant, the four clones below turned into lightning and merged into the clone that was about to be destroyed. What's going on? Bullet couldn't help but exclaimed, his eyes fluttering. Whitebeard, Rayleigh, Red Earl, Shanks saw the other clones coming, gritted their teeth and wanted to insist on breaking this clone. Who would have thought that the 5 clones would actually gather together, and what was despairing was, the clone that was about to be broken was completely restored. The 5 people were like being struck by lightning, and their eyes were full of shock. Don't care about him. Whitebeard roared immediately. At this point, there is no turning back. Rayleigh, Shanks, Red Earl, Bullet's eyes condensed. He squeezed his body again, and a terrifying experience burst out. Black lightning flashed wildly. The sky was shattered, the sea was overturned, and the earth collapsed. The energy formed by the 3 slashes and 2 hands suddenly exploded at the critical point. Shane's clone was directly knocked out and crashed into the dilapidated building of naval headquarters. The figures of the 5 people were also thrown one after another, and the combined giant fell on the tilted ground. The violent aftermath hit all directions. Large buildings, ruins, and even marine pirates were blown away. No, it's impossible. Could it be that Zhenen's clone was really defeated repeatedly? Kizaru's pupils trembled, and he said in disbelief. It was really terrifying that Whitebeard, red-haired Shanks, and the other 5 attacked together. Sengoku, Garp, Aokiji, Akainu, and thousands of marines were speechless and shocked. Audiences from all over the world were dumbfounded, sweating, and worried. Even the 5 elders narrowed their eyes and looked at the naval headquarters building in the picture. Shane's clone couldn't stand up after being hit by this joint attack. Everyone was nervous, and the pirates were looking forward to it. Whitebeard, Shanks, Rayleigh, Red Earl, and others were panting and staring. Suddenly, there was a noise in the headquarters building. The rubble covering the clone exploded. Lightning flashed. In a flash, a clone exactly like Shane appeared in front of everyone. Seeing the clone clearly, Whitebeard, Red Hair, Rayleigh, Red Earl, Bullet, and the 2 pirates, all looked pale. After suffering such a horrible blow. Shane's clone only had 1 hand broken. What made the pirates desperate was that the broken hand was recovering quickly. It can recover. Shane's clone is recovering. Garp's eyes almost popped out, in amazement. If I'm not mistaken, the last 5 clones merged into one and took on the combined attack of Whitebeard and the others. Moreover, such a powerful attack was enough to destroy Marineford, and the clone only had one hand broken. Sengoku felt that this world was a bit absurd. Strong, too strong. Xiaoyan's clone is so strong, how strong should he be? I can't even imagine it. If that happens, the pirates will definitely lose. It's another shock to us. Such a terrifying attack, I don't think my clone can handle it. Kizaru exhaled heavily, the wrinkles on his face opened, revealing a smile. The battle is over, it's impossible for the pirates to get out of this unscathed. Aokiji Kyuzan reacted in shock and nodded. No one could have imagined that Xiaoyan's clone was so strong. Akainu Sakazuki's pupils were trembling, and there was a sense of excitement in his heart. BGDH. Xiaoyan's clone didn't lose. Now the pirates are in a dilemma. Before, they might have been able to break through and escape if they had fought hard, but at this moment, the pirates, who had consumed a lot of energy and had only one choice, were destined to fail in Marineford. After a short silence, all the Marines raised their weapons and cheered excitedly, "Invincible! Invincible!" Indeed, seeing Shane's clone's palm recover quickly, the Marines present were shocked and relieved. Originally, they thought they were going to lose. If the clone was defeated, most of the Marines would probably violate the rules set by Shane and fight. But now, it is almost impossible for the pirates to deal with the clone. Whitebeard and red-haired Shanks might not be able to use the attack just now, and even if they did, the clone would not be afraid. People around the world watched the live broadcast and their emotions fluctuated greatly. That devastating move just now was really scary. But Admiral Shane is invincible. The palm that destroyed the clone was restored in an instant. Look, the pirates are desperate. Victory! Victory! The people reacted in shock and immediately cheered. The scene. The pirates' camp was in despair. The cotters and members who were still standing stared with their eyes wide open, their muscles trembling, full of disbelief, horror, and their bodies stiffened in shock. Too scary. How can he not die? How could this level of attack only destroy half of the palm? If it were a large island, it would probably be shattered by now. It was a big move that could not be blocked by human power, but Shane's clone actually pulled it back. It was simply heaven-defying. It was extremely scary. Bullet swallowed his throat in the center of the combined giant's body, and the expression on his face froze at that moment. I thought Shane's clone would fall and be seriously injured, but I didn't expect such a powerful joint attack to have such a result. It can recover, what's the difference between it and a scratch? Whitebeard, red-haired Shanks, Red Earl, and Rayleigh were panting, their faces were bloodless, and their eyes were full of disbelief. Are you kidding? Red Earl knew how terrible the power of everyone's joint efforts was this time. Even Roger, the Overlord Rox, who was at his peak back then, would never dare to resist. But Shane's clone not only resisted, but also blocked all the power. Just a broken palm. At this point, we still can't win. Newgate, we are old after all. Rayleigh glanced at the gap in the sword in his hand and smiled bitterly. Facing such an opponent, Whitebeard sighed slightly, his eyes on Shane's clone, unable to understand. Being so powerful, and the clone's various abilities, a monster, indescribable. Everyone, the battle is not over yet. Although Shanks couldn't believe it, he still reacted rationally and said bitterly. Shane only said that they could leave if they were defeated, or escape, and he would let them go. What if they couldn't do either? It's really incredible. What kind of ability user are you? Beckman, Marco, and others came back to their senses, looking at Shane, who still looked exhausted in the sky, but they were a little desperate. If you can't beat him, then escape? The 5 clones merged into one, which made the people present lose the confidence to escape. Moreover, too many people on the pirates' side were stunned by the Conqueror's hacky conflict. The Red Hair Pirates and Whitebeard Pirates could not abandon their members. They could only fight, but the enemy was too terrible. For a moment, only the Marines were shouting on the scene. The deafening cheers made the pirates suffocate. But time passed, and Shane did not give them time to breathe. The clones fought back. Snap! A flash of lightning. The violent clones were already standing in the center of many cotters. Not good. Be careful. Someone warned. The next second, the clones had already punched Marco. The Phoenix demon fire surged, and Marco did not choose to dodge, but fought against the clones. The so-called Phoenix can recover from multiple injuries. But when Shane's clone's fist arrived, Marco felt cold all over, as if his blood had stopped flowing. The fist with a white halo and a trace of lightning continued to enlarge in the field of vision. Just before it collided with Marco's blue demon fire, there was a crack. The atmosphere cracked. The demon fire was extinguished. The terrifying force, lightning, and shock, caused the ground under Marco's feet to collapse instantly, and the gravel exploded and floated in the air due to the huge force. Marco only felt an irresistible force coming, and the next second, the violent impact made his brain dizzy, and blood spurted out of his mouth under the pressure of his chest. Boom! Marco flew backwards, rubbing against the ground and knocking out a large piece of dust. Marco! Baista and others screamed, and finally reacted to take action. But this clone has complete enchantment, and the pseudo-sonic energy is not dispersed. Its strength is far from being as simple as 1 + 1. Marco is like this, and the demon fire cannot be restored, let alone others. The clone turned around and kicked, and Baista's long sword flew away, and he himself was kicked directly, and his eyes almost popped out, and he fell into the corner and couldn't get up. The scene that followed was like a boxing champion bullying a child, the captain of the department. Rikyo, Yozo, Hongo, Lakuru. No one can withstand the attack of the clone. The fist enchanted by the double shock and lightning has great destructive power. With the Conqueror's entanglement, armament haki, who will fly? On the square, one figure after another fell, or embedded in the headquarters building, or fell into the ruins and dust, or fell into the sea water in the inner bay. It turned out to be a performance show of the clone. You know, whether it is the captain of the large fleet or the cotter captains, they are all the great pirates in the world. Chapter 77. Seeing people flying out one after another. The naval headquarters building collapsed completely as people crashed into it one after another. Amid the rumble, the ground shook and dust filled the sky. The terrified pirates couldn't run away, unless they could fly at the speed of light like Kizaru. Otherwise, with the thundering ability of Shane's clone, whoever turned around and ran would be here in an instant. Whitebeard, the red-haired man, saw this. Even though he knew the gap, he couldn't help but get angry and rushed over with gritted teeth. Rayleigh couldn't just sit there and watch, so he sighed, passed by, and followed. Stop! Whitebeard's eyes widened with anger, and his naginata chopped down on the clone's head. Conqueror's lightning exploded, dragging a long trail, trying to stop the clone directly. The clone turned around, as if he had expected it, and punched Whitebeard. The two clashed in the air, Conquerors, and the power of the shock caused a strong earthquake in Marineford. A gully tore from under the feet of the two. The next second, the clone's fist went 1 inch further. And Whitebeard's eyes flashed with surprise, and a huge force surged, and the whole person was overturned. Can't help spurting out a large mouthful of blood, Whitebeard was forcibly hit into the ruins in the distance. Dad! Seeing Whitebeard spitting blood and flying backwards, Ace couldn't help but rush up. Luffy saw Ace rushing over and immediately followed. The two brothers were one in front and one behind, with fire fists and rubber fists. As a result, the clone punched back and punched in the air. Conqueror's haki, the double power of the fist, hit the air to burst. Ace and Luffy hadn't reacted yet, and their abilities were suppressed by Conquerors. The flames went out, and the rubberization disappeared. Then, the two followed the direction of Whitebeard's backward flight and rolled their eyes. Fortunately, Rayleigh and Shanks caught the two and prevented further damage. He looked at Luffy and Ace, who had been knocked unconscious by Shane's clone. Shanks and Rayleigh put them where they were. The two walked to the clone and tightened their weapons. There is no way out. If we don't take action, we will lose even more miserably. Shanks took a deep breath. These words were meant for the Red Earl and Bullet, who were backing off. The clone was too strong, and the two guys thought of letting them fight and sneaking away. As expected. Even though Shanks took the initiative to remind him, the Red Earl still wanted to run. He was now in the ruins of Crescent Bay, and was preparing to use his body skills to escape from the sea. Reminded by Shanks' words, the Red Earl ran away decisively and was about to jump. As a result, a flash of lightning appeared while he was still in the air. After crossing half the distance of the square, in less than a second, the clone appeared in front of the Red Earl and blocked his way. You! The Red Earl's heart trembled, and he gritted his teeth and stabbed out the umbrella sword. The clone stretched out his hand and grabbed it, and threw the suspended Red Earl back with force. The Red Earl was pushed away by the huge force, and he was about to adjust his body. But before he could stand firm, the clone followed him like a shadow, and a red lightning punch was about to fall on his face. Too fast. It was so fast that the Red Earl was terrified. He could only turn his head away and use his shoulder to catch it. And then, bang! The Red Earl was hammered into the ground, smashing out a large courtyard. The right hand and even the right shoulder seemed to have lost consciousness, and the body was in great pain. The little haki and physical strength left made the Red Earl lose the will to fight. The clone landed lightly on the ground, without even looking at the Red Earl, who was struggling powerlessly. Because behind him was Bullet's huge hand. Shanks and Rayleigh also used all their strength to prepare for the final blow. But before the huge hand could fall, the clone was no longer there. When it appeared, it had already appeared on the chest of the combined giant. With a fist of lightning, it blasted directly at it. Bullet knew Shane's horror very well, and when he appeared here, he desperately gathered all his haki to build a defense. Among the only people left on the scene, only Bullet still had the most haki. The chest of the giant who gathered all of Bullet's armament haki, Conqueror's haki, was purple and black. But the next second, the lightning fist was like a beam of light, directly blasting Bullet's haki. Like a piece of white paper, there was no resistance. Bullet widened his eyes in horror and opened his mouth to say something, but then he was drowned by the lightning. His body was directly hit from behind, and his ability was instantly out of control. Without Bullet's ability to maintain, the entire combined giant completely fell apart in the lightning that penetrated his chest. Seeing Bullet being blasted into the ground by lightning, it was unknown whether he was alive or dead in the fierce fire. Shanks and Rayleigh gritted their teeth and quickly rushed towards Shane's clone. Unable to use the observation haki to predict the future on Shane, they could only lock onto his body and attack. But what everyone didn't expect was that the clone was more anxious than them. Directly turned into lightning and approached the two. God break! The two combined their swords, aimed at the clone's chest, and stabbed with red haki lightning. However, the clone burst out with more violent lightning and punched back. Purple, white, lightning. Three colors flowed in Rayleigh and Shank's eyes. Then, with the power of shock, thunder, and gravity, the fist blasted through the air. In an instant, the space was distorted. The two were stagnant, and in less than a second, the terrifying energy impact directly wiped out their haki with the distortion of space, and their bodies were hit hard. Blood was spit out, and was annihilated by the clone's punch. Shanks and Rayleigh crashed into the ruins of the headquarters building at a faster speed and smashed a hole in it. The Marines present were crazy, excited, and shocked. When they came back to their senses, the big pirates on the scene had been knocked down by the clone. Someone was struggling, and the clone looked up and was about to take action immediately. Stop! Stop! We admit defeat. Shanks hung on a large piece of rubble and shouted with difficulty and bitterness. What are they still fighting for? The remaining pirates on the scene were not even qualified to fight Shane's clone. All were defeated by the clone. With the red-haired Shanks's surrender, no one could stand up. A large number of crew members fell down and fainted, and they had not yet woken up from the shock of Conqueror's haki, the captains who were struggling or knocked unconscious, the legends who fell in the ruins, the Emperor of the Sea. In the sky, Shane, who was sitting cross-legged on the top of the blue dragon, had sweat on his head, but his eyes were already bright. There was no need to continue to kill him. Shane asked his clone to stop the action and stand still. Torture them all. The words of lightning appeared in the air. The confused Marines began to hold their breath and became short, and then everyone cheered with fists. We won. Today's battle has gone through many twists and turns, and with the appearance of Shane, everyone is shocked beyond words. The expected victory still makes all the Marines ecstatic. We won. Long live Admiral Shane. The Marines couldn't stop shouting. They were so excited because there were too many pirates who fell on the scene. Whitebeard pirates, red hair pirates, at least 10,000 people. Including the cotters and captains, the proportion of big pirates is very high, almost accounting for half of the strong men in New World. All were captured by Marine. This will be a huge victory, and it will be the first time that the pirates have been hit hard. Whether it is significance or strategic results, it is extremely great. It is also the reason why everyone can't help but go crazy even though they know they will win. The era of big pirates can basically be declared over. Sengoku, Garp, and the three admirals all breathed a sigh of relief, arranged manpower and material support, and wanted to control all pirates. At this time, the whole world cheered because the battle was over. It's over, it's over. Finally we won, the world is still here. Yeah, it's all Admiral's fault, otherwise. We've won. Now it's time to celebrate. Long live Admiral Blackbeard. Fearing the pirates, fearing the four emperors, the people were relieved, some cried with joy, and some shouted to celebrate. The pirates, after all, represent the evil side in the world, the people were happy, celebrating the victory. And in Wanakuni, Onigashima. At this moment, there was silence. In front of the live broadcast screen, everyone's head was dripping with cold sweat, their expressions were stiff, frozen in the shocking moment, and they didn't come back to their senses for a long time. Kaido, Big Mom, and others were slapped in the face by the powerful strength of the clone, and they didn't expect that the red-haired man would take the initiative to admit defeat in the end. The clone is just his clone. Kaido's face was pale, and he clenched his fists tightly, looking very solemn. Originally, he thought that if he strengthened his training and strengthened his strength, he would have a chance to compete with Shane again. But now he no longer had the confidence he had before. The three people on Whitebeard and Roger's ship, plus the Red Earl, were all top-notch warriors who were beaten by the clones. What could Kaido use to fight Shane alone? Big Mom sat next to him, and she was even more terrified, and said hoarsely, "Everyone says we are monsters. He is the real monster. If Shane really wants to wipe out the pirates, then the next one must be her and Kaido." At this time, Big Mom and Kaido both felt that forming an alliance was indeed a wise choice. Asking for flowers. But facing the invincible Shane, they felt that it was not enough at this moment, and the Whitebeard and the two pirates grouped together were far from enough. Escaped back to Sabaody Archipelago, Kid, Hawkins, and others who did not come with Marineford looked at the cheers of Marine and the excitement of the people on the island. Shane's name resounded throughout the island. They stood there for a long time as if petrified. They understood that the world had changed. From this moment on, it became a question whether the pirates could stand firm. Who could resist such a powerful Black Bat Admiral? At the same time, Marie Joyce, between power. The five elders and Garansheng were all silent, staring at the live broadcast screen with trembling eyes. This person is already invincible. Garansheng broke the silence with trembling lips after a long time. Even this king who had experienced the Valley of Gods incident couldn't help but feel terrible. I originally thought that Whitebeard was the person with the greatest potential threat to us at present, but now it seems Shane is. Saint Satan gnashed his teeth, and the Eye King was full of fear. This boy's strength is too exaggerated. It's really difficult to deal with him. Saint Mez had to admit the fact. Just as Saint Garin said, did he really have to make a complete enemy with Shane? Anyway, he has acted recklessly more than once or twice, but now is not the best time. Saint Wallaka said slowly. The five people were connected in mind, and they all knew what the other party was worried about. Fear, deep fear. Kong commented that dealing with Shane was equivalent to going to war with the four emperors at the same time. But the five elders felt that dealing with Shane, wanting to convict and punish him, was no less difficult than capturing Rox, Roger, and others alive. Of course, Shane didn't know at this moment what the five elders were thinking about what to do with him. Ding. Successfully defeated all pirates with summons, ended the battle at the top, and obtained 2,000 attribute points. Standing up from the cross-legged sitting, watching the Marines start to act, Shane slowly exhaled and wiped his sweat. It's a bit strenuous for five people to consume physical strength at the same time. It seems that the current limit of the pseudo-sound wave is not as imagined. Xiaoyan thought to himself. Since all along, the pseudo-sound wave has never been consumed to this extent, and it can be said that it feels like a huge consumption. Pseudo-sound waves are linked to physical strength, and the speed of consumption can also make Xiaoyan feel tired. So, these 200 attribute points are still added to the pseudo-sound wave. Ding, pseudo-sound waves break through 14,000 attribute points. Unlock enchantment, floating ability, Buddha ability. These two abilities are not weak. The pseudo-sound wave has two more abilities, and Xiaoyan's strength has once again ushered in a surge. The more the strength goes up, the more abilities there are. If it continues to increase, I'm afraid I can gather all the abilities in the pirates' world before I can speak. Xiaoyan thought, his eyes brightened. This is not bad. At the same time, the five elders staring at Xian through the live broadcast screen, the more they think about it, the more headaches they have. Is this kid enjoying the fruits of victory? Saint Satan was still very unhappy and cursed in a coquettish voice. Well, maybe we can control him. People always have weaknesses. As long as we find out what Shane's desire is, we can try. Saint Volico tapped his fingers on the table and said slowly. If we don't punish him, where is the dignity of celestial dragons? Saint Nasu Shaolang frowned, somewhat unhappy. Whether to completely make enemies with him or find a way to control him, it will take a process. Perhaps this matter can be reported to that adult. Saint Mez saw that everyone was undecided and made a suggestion. Shane's problem was indeed very serious and could be put on the table of that adult, so he asked for instructions. Hearing this, the four martial gods and Saint Garen were silent and needed more consideration. Just then, Marineford, who had already begun to clean up the battlefield, suddenly made a lot of noise again. Shane, what is he going to do again? The five elders saw that Shane, who was standing on the top of the illusory blue dragon, waved his fingers. The lightning was wandering in the sky. What was he writing? The war is over. Now the personnel are entering the scene to clean up and detain the pirates. Is there nothing for him to do now? Seeing this, the five elders and Saint Garen couldn't help but stare at the live broadcast screen in confusion. The scene. Sengoku, Garp, the three admirals, Grandma Crane, and the vice admirals saw the movement in the sky and couldn't help but look up and stare. Shane, what does he want to say? Sengoku was a little confused. Shouldn't he come down at this time? You know, the live broadcasts all over the world are still going on.